Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto is Rias' cousin part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. The Valley of the End was the last place the first Hokage Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha had last fought. It had a waterfall was in between two giant statues of the aforementioned men at their feet were two boys both aged around 13. Well, one didn't look like a boy. He had gray skin and had large leather wings shaped like hands. In his hands was what looked like black lighting. The sound of many birds could be heard all around the valley. On the other side has a blonde-haired boy, whisker-like marks on his face, and wearing what looked like an orange jumpsuit. There was an aura around him that was shaped like a fox. In the boy's hands was an orb of energy that was spinning in every direction at once. It was called the Rasengan, a move made by the fourth Hokage. Then the two charged at each other, the monster flying while the other one jumped and glided at him. Their arms held back ready to use their attacks, each shouting at the other. Sasuke! Naruto! The two charged at each other and met in midair as the attacks clashed with each other. The energy of the two attacks mixed and caused it to flare up, blinding all around the area. Naruto soon was pulled into a rip in the world, and the blonde knucklehead was no longer in the Element Nations. Another dimension. Place unknown. Currently we find two young girls around 13 and a young girl around 10 sitting in a garden of a grand estate. The two 13-year-old girls were playing chess whilst the 10-year-old was eating a plate of cookies. The first 13-year-old girl had long red hair with a pair of turquoise eyes and a higher bust size than most girls her age, and the second girl had longer black hair that reached down near to the floor and had a pair of light purple eyes. Her bust size was slightly higher than her red-haired friend. The 10-year girl had shoulder-length silver hair with a cat hair clip, pair of golden yellow eyes. She was also flat-chested. Checkmate, Akino, the red-haired said with a satisfied smile. Errara, looks like you win again, Rias. What's that, the 29th time? Answered Akino to the now named Rias. 31st time, she beat you, Akino, the golden-eyed girl said in an emotionless voice as she munched on her 7th cookie. Rias giggled. Thank you, Kaneko. The three were devils. The red hair was Rias Gremory, a pure-blooded devil, and the heiress of the Gremory family, one of the remaining families from the 72 pillars of the Underworld, as well as the younger sister to Surzex Lucifer, the current leader of the four great Satans. The girl with long black hair that reached down near to the floor was Akino Himejima, a half-devil/half-fallen angel hybrid, and was Rias' queen in her peerage. The youngest girl was Kaneko Tuju, who was a Nikomata-turned-devil. She was also Rias' first rook in her peerage. Before anything else could be said, they saw a person fall through what looked like a tear in the sky. The three girls rushed to the location of the person, which was outside the front of the Gremory estate. They saw a blonde-haired boy with whisker-like marks on his face, and wearing what looked like a blooded-stained ripped orange jumpsuit. He had a large hole in his chest located near his heart. He opened his eyes and they saw that his eyes were turning pale blue, and in a raspy voice, "Help me," he then slipped back into unconsciousness. Rias did the only thing she in her 13-year-old mind could think in panic to help. She resurrected Naruto as a devil in her peerage as her second rook. Soon her mother and several servants helped Rias take the blonde boy to a room to rest. Unknown to the other people in the manor, from being reborn as a devil, Naruto's body was now being healed from all the malnutrition he had suffered from eating only ramen. Inside the seal, the nine-tailed fox was being absorbed into Naruto's body, and his chakra system shut down due to the extreme intake of extra power. 3 days later. It took Naruto 3 days to wake from the rebirth. He felt groggy and tired. Then the memories of the Valley of the End hit him. Jumping out of the bed he was in, he then looked in a nearby full-length mirror and saw that he now had a scar on both sides of his body where Sasuke had shoved the Chidori through his chest. He also noted that his body was more filled out, no longer skinny from only eating ramen, and his muscles were larger. He noticed that his eye color was no longer bright blue but was more a dark blue like the bottom of the ocean, and that he only had his orange jumpsuit trousers on. "Ah, you're awake, I see," a voice said behind Naruto. He turned around and saw a girl around his age. She had long red hair with a pair of turquoise eyes. She was wearing a black jumper with a long black skirt. All in all, Naruto thought she was very cute. "Who are you?" Naruto asked the red-haired girl. She smiled. "I'm Rias Gremory, and I'm also the one who saved you." Naruto was shocked and bowed to her. "Thank you." She blushed slightly. "It's no problem, but to save you I needed to turn you into a devil." Naruto's blood turned cold. "What?" She knows that humans being turned into a devil could sometimes go into shock. "I said that to save your life I needed to turn you into a devil." But before she could continue, Naruto ran past her and jumped through the window. not caring that he was on the 3rd floor. He didn't know how long he had been running for, but he finally stopped and knelt on the floor of the forest. Tears were falling from his eyes as he was now, and he was feeling scared, angry, and lonely. Scared because he didn't know what to do, angry that he was now something the village called him and that he could no longer prove them wrong. But he was mostly lonely since he didn't have any of his friends around to support him, no one to turn to for advice. He was alone again, like he was back when he was a kid, and it scared him. He was broke from his thoughts when he saw a red glowing circle, and stepping out of it was Rias. Naruto glared at her. "What do you want?" Rias flinched at the venom in his tone but pressed on and shocked Naruto by bowing to him. "I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, but I needed to do it to save your life." Naruto subconsciously rubbed his new scar and said to Rias in a soft voice, "I forgive you." The two sat in the quiet for a bit before Naruto moved forwards with his hand out, and a foxy grin on his face. "Hi, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Who are you?" Rias giggled at what he was trying to do. "I'm Rias Gremory. Nice to meet you, Naruto." The two sat and talked about random topics until it was late when they walked back to the Gremory Manor. 4 weeks later. It had been 4 weeks since Naruto had started to live at the Gremory estate. At the moment, Naruto was being tutored by one of the estate's tutors. After Rias and her family learned of Naruto being sabotaged from a young age in his education, Rias had asked the tutors of the house to help Naruto. After protesting a bit, Naruto gave in to Rias's request and found out he enjoyed learning and reading. He had become more level-headed and would think before acting. He had also learned that his chakra had gone, and the fox had seemed to disappeared. So he decided to focus on taijutsu and kenjutsu until he could find out what happened to his chakra. After his writing tutor let him go, he went to the garden where his swords master Tsuji Okita was waiting for him to arrive for his lesson. He had learned he was a prodigy in kenjutsu, which was rare since not many people could feel natural with a sword in their hands. Later that night, Naruto was sitting on the rail on the small balcony that was outside his window. His room, ironically, was the same one he awoke in. "Can't sleep, Naruto?" "No, I can't, Rias. I'm thinking of my past." "Why is that, Naruto?" she asked as she sat next to him. Naruto sighed and looked at Rias and told her his past, from the fact he was from another dimension, to the beatings, how most of the shops overpricing stock when selling to him, to his missions and his friends and surrogate family. Rias hugged Naruto and promised him that she would help him find a way home if he wanted to return there. He promised her that he would protect her with his life as her rook. His dark eyes changed from deep blue filled with loneliness to electric blue eyes filled with purpose. 4 years later. Underworld. Dante Stadium. Currently in the Underworld was a tournament between the different lower-class devils who were trying to show their skills to be promoted to a higher rank. Watching the event was nearly all of the devils in the world, the noble houses as well as the 4 great Satans who were also judging the events. On the field were the 2 fighters that made it to the final. The first fighter was male and around the age of 17, who was about 5 feet 11 inches. He had wild spiky blonde hair that fell in between his shoulder blades. He had a pair of electric blue eyes with slit pupils. He was wearing a dark red shirt with a pair of black jeans and a pair of orange checked shoes. The second fighter was female, aged in her 20s. She had long wavy purple hair that fell down to the top of her, but he had a pair of light purple eyes. She was wearing a lilac skirt that fell down to the floor that had a slit that showed one of her legs with a dark purple corset that had a gold outline for a top. It was open enough that her G-cup nearly popped out. She then had a long white open jacket on her shoulders. The first fighter was Naruto Uzumaki, a low-class devil of the Gremory household, and was a rook of the heiress Rias. The second fighter was Eubelina the Bomb Queen, a middle-class devil of the Phoenix household, and was the queen of Riser Phoenix. It was a shock to all watching when a low-class devil had fought and won against a stadium filled with middle-class devils. To add to the shock, he was now in the final against the famed Bomb Queen of the Phoenix clan. Match begin. The voice of Graphia Lucifuge came over the stadium speakers. The two charged at each other. Loud explosions rang through the stadium as Eubelina threw multiplied bombs at Naruto, but all he did was grin and move at speed that left behind a sound of static. Eubelina was starting to become annoyed at this upstart. He was a rook, his weakness should be his speed, but he was moving at speed that was incapable of tracking. She was a queen, she was the top of the peerage food chain under the king. She snapped, "How are you moving that fast?" Naruto looked at her with a foxy smirk and spoke, "I train." "How? No rook can move at those speeds." Naruto chuckled and moved at the speed of static. Next he was in front of her with his fist buried in her gut, and said, "I'm unpredictable, that's how." His fist glowed neon blue for a split second. Bala. Ubelino was launched back and asked again, how can you move that fast? Naruto chose to answer her this time. I call it Sonito. It allows me to move at the speed of sound. She nodded and passed out. She then was teleported to the medical ward of the stadium. Winner Naruto Uzumaki Graphia Lucifuge announced over the stadium speakers. Cheers rang through the stadium as Naruto won. Many were from the lower class since it was a victory for them, the underdogs. Before Naruto could leave, a voice shouted, "Wait." All went quiet as a tall man jumped down into the arena. He looked 19 or 20 years old, and had messy spiked black hair with a pair of dark violet eyes that looked almost black. He was wearing a black long shirt with a high collar with a gold trim and a pair of black trousers and shoes. Over his top was a gray waistcoat. He was Serorg Bale, the heir of the Bale family. He was called the Golden Lion and the strongest youth. He was also Rias' cousin on her mother's side. Naruto looked over to the man and sighed, "What do you want, Serorg?" Serorg grinned, "I want to fight you, Uzumaki." Gasps were heard throughout the stadium. Serorg was a high-class devil, an heir to a family, plus he was the strongest of his generation, and he now wanted to fight a low-class devil who had won the tournament. Naruto looked at his would-be opponent and chuckled whilst shaking his head. "You sure, Serorg?" "Yes, Naruto, I want to show you the power of my youth." At the last sentence, Naruto had to stop his mind from going to a spandex flashback. Naruto grinned, "Bring it, Serorg." Serorg fist pumped the air. "Yash, Graphia-sama, please start to fight." Match between Naruto Uzumaki and Serorg Bale begin, Graphia said over the stadium speakers. Serorg charged at Naruto at speeds that would make Might Guy and Rock Lee jealous. Naruto dodged, then Sonito to kick Serorg in the head, which Serorg grabbed and throw him to the ground. Naruto flipped back to his feet. The two started to exchange punches and kicks. Soon they launched backwards and gained some space. "Ha, you're as strong as they say you are, Uzumaki." Naruto chuckled. "Same can be said about you, Serorg." Serorg gave a full-blown laugh. "Very true." He then turned serious, "But I think it's time I use some more of my power." What is he planning? Could he be readying to use his Regulus Nemia? Naruto questioned in his own mind. Serorg charged up his energy and slammed his fist into the ground, making it crack, and he then started to launch pieces of earth flying at Naruto. Naruto no, he couldn't Sonito since he was not on stable ground from the violent shacking. "Fuck, I can't dodge the larger chucks. It's like going up against a weaker version of Tsunade. I'm going to have to use that to win," Naruto thought. Soon a dust cloud covered the area around Naruto. Serorg narrowed his eyes, thinking that it wasn't over, but before he could move or speak, Naruto's voice rang out from the dust. "Well, Serorg, it seems that you got me to use my scared gear." The dust cleared, and in Naruto's right hand was a sword. It was a katana with a square guard. The grip was a burnt orange color. Serorg meet Los Lobos. Everyone then felt a massive pressure exhale from Naruto's body. In a blink, Naruto was in front of Serorg with a diagonal slash to the man's chest, which the man barely avoided, but then Naruto stuck out his left hand in a fist, and a neon blue sphere that had a dark blue center formed. It looked like a Rasengan. He then shouted Zero. The sphere turned into a beam and shot out, and hit Serorg in the center of his chest. Serorg struggled to stand and laughed. "You win, Naruto." "Huh?" Naruto asked in confusion, as well as most of the stadium. "If I use any more power like my scared gear, I could destroy the whole stadium." Naruto shrugged and desummoned Los Lobos. "Fair enough." Winner Naruto Uzumaki Graphia announced over the stadium speakers. If anyone listened closely, you could hear the happiness in her voice. Naruto and Serorg then were teleported to the room where the four great Satans were, as well as the announcer Graphia Lucifuge were. The cameras that filmed the tournament were still recording the deliberation of the winner's final rank. Serzex, the leader of the four, spoke to Serorg. "What rank do you think young Naruto should be, Serorg?" Serorg thought for a second. "I think he should be promoted to a high-class devil." Serzex nodded at the recommendation. "Do any of you agree?" The other three Satans, Seraphol Leviathan, Ajuka Beelzebub, and Falbium Asmodeus, all raised their hands in agreement. Serzex chuckled. "I agree as well." He then turned to the shocked Uzumaki and spoke. "From this day forth, you Naruto Uzumaki, Rook of the Gremory House, are now a high-class devil." Serzex turned to the cameras and said, "Let all that have watched this be inspired to try as hard as this young man has." He nodded to Ajuka, who then cut the feed to the cameras, which signifying that the tournament had ended. An hour later, Serorg and Naruto were now sitting in a lounge-like room in the stadium. Currently they were having a drink and talking about the fight. "That was a good fight, Naruto. I'm surprised you were able to make me go to that level of strength and beat me." Thanks, Sai, but I only beat you by using my scared gear. Next time I'm going to beat you without it. Serorg laughed. It was one of the reasons Naruto and him were good friends. They both loved training and seeing who was the better. Their current tally was now 30 wins to Naruto and 29 wins to Serorg with only one draw. In that case, Naruto, I will have to train till I drop and then get up and train some more to stay ahead of you, Serorg stated with a fist pump. Naruto chuckled at that. He remembered when he and Serorg first. Flashback. Naruto had now been in Gremory household for a year as Rias's rook. Currently she was off with her new knight Kiba Yudo to ask her brother's knight and Naruto's sword master Tsuji Okita to help Kiba with fine-tuning his sword skills. So whilst that was happening, Naruto was training while he no longer had his chakra. He found that he still had huge energy reserves and found he could use the energy to move faster and harden his skin. A while later, whilst Naruto was practicing his taijutsu, a loud voice called out from behind him, "A fellow martial artist, let's spar." As Naruto turned to the voice and saw behind him was a young teen around 15 or 16 in a black karate outfit. "Who are you?" "I'm Serorg Bale. Who are you?" "I'm Naruto Uzumaki, rook of Rias Gremory." "Ah, you're my cousin's newest rook." Naruto blinked. "You're Rias's cousin?" "Yep, on her mother's side." "Alright, so you want to spar?" The spar lasted over an hour. Once they were done, they started to talk. Naruto had told Serorg about his past from another world. At the moment, Serorg was telling Naruto about his family and how since he wasn't born with the power of destruction his family was famous for, he was denounced as the heir, and how he trained and defeated his half-brother in combat, and reclaimed his spot as the heir of the Bale family. "But even after this, when I still train, because I want to show the whole underworld that even a normal devil could become strong as a Satan without special powers." "You know, Serorg, you really remind me of a friend of mine," said Naruto while Serorg looked at the blonde, curious to know about his friend. "Your determination is the same as his. He had a rare defect that left him unable to use techniques, and many people told him he couldn't become what he wanted, but still he never gave up and started training just like you. He only wished to show to everyone that he could become fine ninja even without techniques, and he did it. He became one of the most powerful people I know," explained Naruto with a sad smile, which the devil immediately understood what it meant. "I am sorry for your friend Naruto," said Serorg. "I would have loved to have met him and to have trained with such a magnificent person." End of flashback. Naruto broke from his thoughts when Serorg shook him on the shoulder. "You alright, Naruto?" "Yeah, I'm okay, Sai. Just thought back to when we first meet and the first spar." Serorg grinned. "Yes, the only time we have ever drawn." He then let out a loud laugh. "After that day I have trained so I can defeat you, my rival." Unknown to the two fighters were two separate groups watching and listening in to the two. The first group was Rias and Aquino. The second group was Surzex and Grafia. Both groups were keeping their power levels low so that they couldn't be sensed. Serorg took a sip of his drink. "I still shocked with how much stronger you have become in 4 years." He lightly chuckled. "You truly are unpredictable, Naruto." Naruto chuckled and looked at his drink. "I found a purpose," he said in a soft voice. Serorg looked at his blonde friend confused. "Oh, what's that?" he asked curiously. The two spying groups were also curious. Naruto smiled softly. "To protect Rias and my friends." Serorg caught the underlying meaning of what Naruto said. "You really care for my cousin?" He saw Naruto finish his drink. "Don't you, Naruto?" Naruto stood up and started to head for the door. "I would give my life for her." Serorg called out to him as he neared the door. "Do you love her, Naruto?" Naruto's body froze up and said in a low voice, "As I said, Sai, I would give my life for her even if it meant dying." To stop that, once he was done, he left the room. Serorg turned his head to the left side of the room to an alcove. "You can come out now." The first figure was male in his late 20s, about 6 feet 5 inches tall. He had long, vivid red hair, a pair of dark turquoise eyes. He was wearing long white and blue robes with ornate gray and gold shoulder armor. The second figure was female in her late 20s, about 5 feet 8 inches tall. She had long gray hair done up into French braids and a pair of light gray eyes. She was wearing a maid outfit. They were Surzex Lucifer, the leader of the current 4 great Satans, and Grafia Lucifuge, the silver-haired queen of annihilation, as well as Surzex's wife. Serorg looked at the two. "So how long have you both been listening in?" Surzex laughed quietly and said, "Long enough, Serorg." Grafia smiled slightly, looking to the door where Naruto left through. "He has gotten stronger." Both the men nodded, but Serorg turned serious and spoke to Surzex. "Why didn't you help Rias out of that?" "I couldn't." "Bullshit, you're the leader of the Satans and her older brother. You should do everything in your power to save her." Surzex shook his head sadly. It was in place before we came into power, whilst Grafia stayed emotionless. Serorg was getting more angry and stood up to his red-haired cousin. His knuckles were turning white. I thought that one of the reasons you and the others took over from the old Satan faction was to stop things like that. Surzex shook his head. I cannot do it, sir. Before he could finish, Serorg's fist had smashed against Surzex's nose, breaking it in the process. Surzex, grow a pair and stop letting the last of the 72 pillars rule over you, Serorg growled as he stormed out the room. Once he left, Grafia helped her husband up from the floor. She then cleaned the blood off his face and asked, "Are you alright, Surzex-sama?" Surzex clicked his nose back into position. "I'm okay, FIH." On his smile turned goofy and childish, "But maybe you could kiss it better." Grafia then pulled his left cheek. "Please don't act like that whilst I'm working, Surzex-sama." "Ow, FIH-on, I sorry, please let go." Once she released her husband's cheek, she spoke in a calm, quiet voice. "What you said to Serorg, was it true?" Surzex signed. He know that his wife cared deeply about Naruto. "Yes, it's true. It was presented to us a week after we took control. So many people thought we were going to be like the old faction and kill any that opposed us or destroy the old ways and enforce our own way on people if they like it or not. We simply had no ground to stand on, and by the time we did it was too late." He then smiled. "But I believe that Naruto, no matter what, can save her from that." Grafia rose an eyebrow at her husband. "What make you so sure?" "Because Naruto always says that he would never break a promise." Grafia nodded and smiled as she remembered the day he was referring to. Mini flashback. "I promise you, Rias-chan, that no matter what I will save you from that," a 15-year-old Naruto proclaimed to his friend in front of her family and the rest of her peerage, not caring about the small frown on her parents' faces. End of mini flashback. Grafia continued to smile and said, "Yes, I believe he will." She then started to make her way to the door and absent-minded said, "It's a good thing I'm happily married, otherwise I would probably jump Naruto the second he hit puberty." Surzex's body froze in place and called out, "You're joking, right, FIH-on?" There was no answer. He then shouted, "FIH-on." He then ran after his wife. Once they left, Rias and Aquino came out of hiding. Both had drastically changed in the 4 years. Rias now stood at 5 feet 8 inches, who with a pair of large for her age, which was around E-cup. She still had turquoise eyes as well as her vivid red hair now reached down past her well-shaped ass and stopped at the top of her knees. Rias was wearing the female uniform of Ko Academy, which was a white dress shirt with a maroon skirt with a black shoulder cape, a black corset, and a black bow around her neck. Aquino now stood at 5 feet 8 inches, same as Rias, but was slightly larger than Rias, around F-cup. She also had a pair of violet eyes as well. Her long silky black hair that was held up in a high ponytail by an orange ribbon Naruto gave her for her birthday a few years back. Her hair now reached down to her feet. Like Rias, she was also wearing the female Ko Academy. Both had confused looks on their faces, thinking over what they had heard from Naruto and Serorg conversation and Surzex and Grafia conversation. Aquino broke the silences, Rias making her friend turn to face her. "What are you going to do?" Rias bit her lower lip, thinking over what she could do. "I have an idea, Aquino, but I need you to distract Naruto." "Fufufu, I can think of something to keep Naruto busy." Aquino giggled with lust-filled eyes. "Aquino," Rias warned her best friend in a low voice. Era, do you want to have him first, Rias?" Aquino teased. Rias's face glowed red from embarrassment. Aquino just giggled at her friend's embarrassment. "Okay, Rias, get going. I'll get Kiba and Kaneko to help me." Rias nodded and teleported to her destination. Leaving Aquino to herself, I wonder if Rias would share. She asked to no one, and then giggled at the idea and left herself via a teleportation seal like Rias before her. A while later, Naruto was currently walking home from helping Kaneko prepare for her move up to the high school section of Ko Academy. When he walked through the front door of his apartment, he heard someone cursing from his kitchen. When he entered his kitchen, and he was shocked to see Rias with an apron over her school clothes. "Rias, what are you doing?" Making the girl turn to him, "Naruto, what you doing here?" she asked in surprise. Naruto couldn't help but sweat drop. "This is where I live," he said in a deadpan voice. Making her blush in embarrassment, I asked again, "Rias, what are you doing?" "I wanted to make you a special meal for your victory in the tournament." Naruto took off his jacket and said, "Okay, let me help." Rias's eyes widened. "What? No, I wanted to do it by myself." Naruto chuckled. "Yeah, but Rias, you don't know where I keep some of my kitchen supplies." Rias pouted and crossed her arms under her bust, then puffed her cheeks out but reluctantly agreed. Soon the duo started to cook. Contrary to popular belief, Naruto could cook. He had to, since he lived on his own from the age of 6. Old Man Tucci at Ichiraku Ramen taught Naruto how to cook starting with ramen, but Naruto couldn't do it back in the leaf since most of the food shops overpriced him. But Naruto loved to cook and usually made the savory food for the peerage whilst Akino made the sweets. Once they were done, Naruto and Rias sat down and ate the meal they had prepared together. After they were done, they sat down and watched TV. Rias wanted to ask Naruto a question and turned to him, but at the same time Naruto turned to her to say something, so their lips meet. After they got over their shock, they continued to kiss until they needed to breath. "Wow," Rias said, breaking the silent atmosphere. "Yeah," Naruto's was intelligent response. Rias gaining her confidence back. "You know, Naruto, getting the blonde's attention, that was my first kiss," making Naruto's eye nearly pop from his skull. "I learnt that in Japan that a first kiss is a treasure." Naruto blushed. "Yeah, well, whatever, it was my first kiss too, so you know." Rias blushed and smiled, then touched her lips. "I'll treasure it then." They soon fell back to silence as Naruto built up the courage to ask Rias something. "Rias, get her attention. Would you be my girlfriend?" Rias smiled and kissed him again with a small "Yes, Naruto, I will." Making the blonde former ninja grin, he then leaned in and kissed his new girlfriend again. In a small town in Japan there was a school called Ko Academy. It was an all-girls school which was recently turned co-ed school. It catered for people from middle school up to college. It was the start of a new term year for the students, people talking about how their summer had been with friends whilst wondering what this new school year would bring. The bell for school start to ring and students walk to their new classrooms. At present we find three average yet distinctive-looking teens. The first was a boy, looked slightly like a monkey with large ears and a shaved head. The second person had short black hair with thick glasses, and the third person was the most interesting of the three average teens. He had brown hair that was pulled into a small ponytail. He had amber-colored eyes. The three were Matsuda, Motohama, and Issei, otherwise known as the perverted trio of Ko Academy, since they were the three most perverted students of the academy. Currently we find the pervy three talking about porn in the middle of a school. Their discussion of porn stopped when low whispers rang across the hall they were in. The trio looked to the origin of the whispers and saw a sight that all men envied. Naruto Uzumaki was walking down the hall with his girlfriend for about 6 months, who was holding his arm in between what many called the Valley of Heaven. The girl in question was Rias Gremory. Rumors had it that they started dating 3 weeks into the summer break, and it seemed that the rumors were true. Once they passed them, the trio of perverts entered their homeroom for the year, depressed that one of the school's great ladies was taken. "Damn that lucky bastard," Matsuda cried as he had waterfall-level tears running down his face. Issei nodding and crying alongside his friend. "Don't worry, my friends, I found something before the last school year ended that I think you both will enjoy," Motohama said as he pushed his glasses up, making them shyer in the light. During the lunch break, Motohama showed his friends what he found before the school broke up last term. It was a small eye-sized hole on the side of a wall, but it wasn't just any wall, it was the side of the changing room of the female kendo club. Soon the three started to giggle like perverts. But soon their giggling came to an end and they froze in place when a voice came from behind. "Then what the hell do you three think you're doing?" The voice was loud enough for the girls inside to know, and they some dressed quickly and ran outside to see what was going on, and they saw one of the two great gentlemen of Ko Academy, Naruto Uzumaki, who was wearing his own style of the male version of the uniform, which consisted of an open black blazer, a white dress shirt with an open collar, a pair of black trousers and a pair of black Van trainers. Below him were the infamous pervert trio, all with a large lump on top of their heads. "Seriously, it's the first day back and you three are already peeping," Naruto yelled to the three. "It's no wonder that any of you can't get a girlfriend," he mumbled to himself as he rubbed his eyes. Matsuda jumped up. "Shut up, you have a girlfriend, you don't know what it's like for people like us," his two friends nodding alongside him. Naruto sighed and turned to the kendo club. "They're yours to deal with." The perverts looked at the girls they peeped on and paled in fear as they were now surrounded by the whole kendo club, who had their training swords in their hands ready to unleash their female fury on them. Naruto spoke again. "Have fun." He then started to walk away as the girls chorused together, "Thank you, Naruto-kun." They then started to beat perverts. Their screams were heard over the academy, making many of the students and teachers shake their heads knowing who the girlish screams were from. Naruto started to make his way to the old school where the Occult Research Club was based, which was a cover for Rias's peerage. As he entered the building, a voice called out to him, "Naruto-senpai." Naruto turned to see a young man with short blonde hair and a pair of gray eyes and stood at 5 feet 9 inches. He had what many called pretty boy looks. He was wearing the normal look of the school uniform, which was a closed black blazer, a white dress shirt with a black bow tied around the collar of the shirt, a pair of black trousers and a pair of brown dress shoes. He was Kiba Yuto, a second-year student and the first knight of Rias's peerage. He was also the person Naruto shared the title of Great Gentleman of Ko with. "Hey Kiba," Naruto said, nodding to his underclassmen. The blonde duo started to walk to the club room together. Any idea what Rias-chan wanted to talk to us all about? Kiba shook his side to side. I don't know, senpai, but it must be important if we're not allowed to do requests today. Naruto had to agree with his friend. The only time Rias had done this was during the final of the tournament last year. They both soon entered the club room. It was a dark Gothic Victorian-styled room, with a desk diagonally faced the door in one of the corners. It also had 3 long 3-people sofas with a small coffee table in the middle. On the middle sofa, eating a plate of cookies, was a girl around 5 feet 0 inches who had C-cup burst. She had shoulder-length silver hair with a black cat-faced hair clip and a pair of golden yellow eyes. She was wearing the female school uniform but without the shoulder cape. She was Kaneko Tuju, a first-year student, and Rias' first rook. She looked up and said in her emotionless voice, "Hello, Naruto-senpai and Kiba-senpai." Once she was done, she continued to eat her cookies. Naruto chuckled. He could tell she was happy to see them since he knew how to understand people's emotions in their voice. Like with Shino and Gaara, he could sense the underlying tone. He then said hello Nico-chan as he sat down on the sofa on the left and took one of Kaneko's cookies whilst Kiba sat on the sofa on the right. Kaneko glared lightly at Naruto for taking one of her cookies, then turned back to her plate, mumbling about cookie stealing blondes as she moved her plate away from him. Kiba chuckled at the two since as long as he known them this was something they did. Naruto would take a cookie and Kaneko would glare and mumble to herself. Naruto finished the cookie and sensed someone behind him. Then without turning around, Naruto spoke, "Hey Akino-chan," making the other two look up and saw that Akino was indeed standing behind the blonde-haired rook. She pouted, upset that she couldn't scare Naruto. "Erera, Naruto-kun, looks like I will have to try harder to sneak up on you," she said to the blonde as she sat on the other end of the sofa that Kiba was on. The only difference to Akino was that her hair had grown slightly longer. Naruto looked at both Akino and Kaneko. "Do either of you any idea what Rias-chan wanted to talk to us all about?" Kaneko shook her head, showing that she didn't know. Akino had a coy smile on her face. "Maybe I do know, Naruto-kun." Naruto was annoyed. He rubbed his eyes. "Akino, just tell us." Akino giggled. "Oh my Naruto-kun, you going to torture me if I don't tell you?" Naruto glared at the queen. He then stood and walked over to her. He then leant into her ear and whispered, "No, but I might have to spank you for being a bad girl." As he leant away from her, he saw that Akino had a slight blush across her face. Satisfied that he was able to get her to blush, he sat back down on his sofa. Soon Rias walked into the room. She looked the same as a year ago but didn't currently have the shoulder cape on. She spotted Naruto and smiled, then walked over to him and kissed him directly on his lips. Once they separated, she sat down next to Naruto and cleared her throat. "Now that we are all here getting everyone's attention, the important part of this meeting is about a recent piece of information my father, Lord Gremory, passed on to me." She then turned serious. "Apparently a small group of fallen angel have moved into the area." The group's reaction to the news was different. Akino and Kiba frowned slightly whilst Naruto and Kaneko looked indifferent about it. After she gave out the important news, the rest of the meeting went along normally, with them talking about their requests, with how many they did and the number of contracts they made that month. "Is that all, Bucho?" Kiba asked once the meeting was done. Rias nodded to her knight. "Yes, Kiba, the meeting is now over." She then smiled and clapped her hands. "Now let's eat the lunch that Akino and Naruto-kun have made for us." The lunches were bento boxes that contained food from both Naruto and Akino. Naruto made that had some of the favorite food that each person loved, and Akino also made several sweet treats that the group loved. Soon the group of 5 were enjoying the food, talking about school, life, etc., and for once the group of 5 were acting like normal teenagers. Once they finished, it was nearly time to head back to class. Kaneko, Kiba and Akino left, leaving both Rias and Naruto in the club room. Naruto turned to his girlfriend Rias-chan, making the red-haired turn to face him. "There's something else, isn't there?" Rias sighed. No matter what, Naruto knew when something was bothering her. "How did you know?" she asked him. Naruto smiled softly at her. "You get a look in your eyes when you're thinking about something intently," he pointed out to her, making her blush at his observation. "So what is it?" Rias sighed as they started to leave the room to get to class. She leant into him so no one would hear her, also because she loved to snuggle into his chest. "After my father informed us of the fallen angels, I got Akino to scan the student body for any fallen angel power signature." Naruto nodded to her since it was a sound plan. "What did she find?" he asked as they neared their classroom. She sighed as she leant in closer. "She found a person with a powerful scared gear." "Really?" Rias nodded. "That's interesting. I wonder who it is and what the gear in is. Did you find out who it was?" She shook her head. "No, she didn't." She sighed. "Obviously this person doesn't know they have it, so they must be an unaware human." Naruto nodded at that, since most people, once they activated their gears, they were dragged into the supernatural world by one of the 3 factions. Once they finished talking, they were outside the classroom. They entered the room. After they sat down, class started. After school finished. After school had ended, Naruto, Rias and Akino made their way to Naruto's house since both Kiba and Kaneko had a contract to attend to. The home had a rustic and homely feel to it, whilst having all the modern comforts like TVs, gaming systems, etc. It was a large 3-story wooden and stone house with a large garden, a small zen garden, and several large trees for shade. Around the border of the property was a large wall made from the same wood as the house. It had a large gate. Naruto had brought it using money he made from his devil contracts, which were like his D-rank missions as a ninja but with higher pay. It also had a barrier around the property that protects them from any attack, including a nuclear bomb. It was set up by Surzex to protect his little sister, since she had moved in with him after they started dating. The house's 3rd floor was actually Naruto's room and insert, since it was a slightly smaller space than the other 2 floors. After a while it had become a home for the rest of the peerage, with Akino and Kaneko moving in with them. Although Kiba didn't move in, he had a room in the house set up for him, but apparently the polite knight liked his own space, which they respected. The 3, after settling in, sat down and started to do their homework. After they finished, they started to relax. Rias remembered something that had been on her mind since their last trip to the Underworld. Naruto-kun, what was the thing my brother wanted to talk to you about on our last trip? Naruto sighed. It was about my reward for going from a low-class devil straight to a high-class devil, making both Rias and Akino to look at him in surprise and confusion. What was it? Akino asked. Naruto shook his head. I'll tell you when Nico-chan and Kiba arrive here, since I don't want to explain it twice, which made the 2 girls pout but agree. Soon Kiba and Kaneko turned up and Naruto sat in front of the group of 4. According to Surzex, a law they passed that if a low class jumps up to a high class and skips the middle class stage, then they would be given their own unique version of a peerage. Shocking the group, they know that when a devil reached high class status they got a peerage, but they only thought it applied for middle class going to high class. Is that why my brother asked you to follow him that day we visited him, and why Ajuka was there? Rias asked as Naruto nodded. So does that mean that I need to get a new rook piece? Naruto sighed. No, you don't. According to Ajuka, I still a member of your peerage, Rias-chan. That confused the group, since usually they became the king of the new peerage, and their old king needed to get a new piece of the same class. So how does it work? Kaneko asked in curiosity. Basically I get 5 pieces. After he said that, he summoned a small box. He then opened. Inside were 5 pieces: a queen, a rook, a knight, a bishop, and a single pawn piece. From what Ajuka told me, I get these 5 pieces. The knight, bishop, and rook all have the combined power of their 2 pieces, as well as the pawn is worth 8 pieces, whilst I also keep my original position in Rias-chan's peerage. Naruto sighed, not being bothered by the shocked and stunned look of his friends. In a sense, makes me a general in Rias-chan's peerage. Rias's mind was racing. If this was the case, then when it came time to fight in a raiding game, then they would have an advantage with the extra members. She then squealed at the possibilities and hugged Naruto, pressing his head in between her, saying how he was an amazing boyfriend. Before she could go any further, Akino cleared her throat, snapping Rias from her hugging mode. When she released Naruto, he fell to the ground gasping for air, making the others chuckle or giggle at him. Soon the group of 5 sat down to eat dinner. Once that was done, they watched TV and then went to bed, with Rias going to bed in Naruto's bed, not her own like usually. 1 month later. Currently we find Issei of the perverted trio walking home after school. He sighed. He was depressed and thinking to himself, since after his last lesson he saw one of the great ladies, Rias Gremory, walking home with her boyfriend Naruto Uzumaki. Why couldn't I be the one that had Rias senpai as a girlfriend? He giggled like a pervert as he neared the bridge he had to cross to get home. Then I could see those pillows of heaven any time I wanted. He shook his head of his daydreams, since he could tell from the way the 2 looked at each other that nothing would separate them. Whilst he was a pervert, he wasn't someone who would ruin a relationship. He stopped midway on the footpath bridge and sighed again and thought, wish I had a girlfriend. He was broke from his thoughts when a sweet female voice behind him spoke. Hello, Issei Hayate. He turned to face the person behind him. Issei's jaw nearly dropped. Standing in front of him was a girl around 5 feet 3 inches, which was 4 inches shorter than himself. She had long pitch black hair with a pair of light violet eyes. She was wearing a uniform for a school he didn't recognize, which consisted of a dark red jacket with the letter P embroidered in gold, a white undershirt, a red bow, and a green skirt with a thin white strip around the lower end of it. But the strange thing was that she was fidgeting and looking nervous. Hello, not to sound rude, but who are you? He asked the cute girl in front of him. The still unnamed girl blushed and fidgeted more. I'm Yuma Amano, and I wanted to ask you something, Issei-kun. Issei was stunned that this beautiful girl wanted him for some reason. Okay, what do you want to ask me? Yuma took a deep breath. I wondered if you wanted to go on a date with me. Issei looked to the sky and wondered if some deity answered his wish. He then smiled at the girl before him. Okay, Yuma-chan. The two then spent some time talking and exchanged phone numbers once they went their separate ways. Issei went home happy that he now had a girlfriend and couldn't wait to rub it in his friends' faces. Unknown to him, he was being watched by Kaneko and Naruto, who watched his exchange with Yuma. Naruto looked sad. He then released a heavy sigh. Kaneko looked up at him. What's wrong, senpai? It's just he believes he has found himself a girlfriend, but in fact all that has happened is that he has fallen to a fallen angel plot. He sighed sadly. Whilst he disliked Issei for peeping on girls, he had to feel sorry for him since he believes that he had just got a girlfriend. Kaneko tilted her head, which made her look extremely cute, and asked in confusion, I thought you hated perverts? Naruto chuckled and shook his head. I hate most of them, but two of my teachers were probably the biggest perverts back home, but they were also two of the strongest fighters in my home village, so they have my respect for that, Naruto said as he remembered Kakashi and Jiraiya. I hope you're not a secret pervert, senpai, Kaneko stated in her monotone voice that had a hint of annoyance in it. Nico-chan, Naruto grabbed his chest where his heart was located. I'm hurt that you would think that I'm a pervert. I would never lower myself to that level. Kaneko had a barely noticeable smirk on her face after Naruto was done. They then teleported home and informed Rias of what they saw. After she got the info, she went into what the group called her king mode. It was when she started to think like a leader of an army. Currently, as they were eating their dinner of spaghetti bolognese, she was trying to figure out why a member of the Fallen asked Issei on a date. Maybe Issei is the one with the gear, Akino-senpai since last month, Kiba suggested as he wiped his mouth. Rias's eyes widened and smacked her forehead. Of course, she cried as she leant back in her chair. No offense to Issei or anything, but it explains why a random girl would go up to a known pervert and ask him out. Kiba and Kaneko smirked at their king's words whilst Naruto and Akino chuckled/giggled respectively at her words. Once dinner was done and Kiba had decided to stay the night, they watched TV. They watched some show from England called Doctor Who, which Kaneko was a huge fan of. When it got late, they all went to bed with Rias once again sleeping in Naruto's bed. 1 week later. It was 10 a.m. on Saturday and the sun shined into Naruto's room, waking the blonde rook wake up. When he awoke, he found himself trapped within Rias's arms with his head between her. He squeezed his hands and heard Rias moan softly, and he realized that his hands were on her luscious ass. He sighed since this was one of the many different positions he would wake up in. He slowly untangled himself from Rias. She then moaned in disappointment as to the loss of his body heat. He placed a pillow as his replacement, making her sigh in happiness. He looked at her, and like every time she slept in his bed since they were 13, she was naked with her vivid red hair falling over her body, which made her smooth, creamy skin look even more beautiful. He then removed the only piece of sleep where he was wearing, which was his PJ bottoms. After that, he walked into his ensuite bathroom and turned on the shower. Once it got to the right temperature, he stepped under the warm water and sighed as the water fell onto his body. His thought about the week that had just been, they had been taking turns keeping an eye on Issei and Yuma, which they believed to be an alias the fallen angel was using. Naruto had to admit the two looked great together, and from the look in her eyes it looked like she cared deeply for the pervert, but the others believed it was a trick. However, his gut was telling him it wasn't a trick, and in most cases in the past his gut was right. As he rinsed the shampoo from his hair, he couldn't help but chuckle as he thought about when the rest of Ko Academy learned about Yuma and her dating Issei. It was around lunchtime. Flashback. It had been 3 days since Issei and Yuma had started dating. Naruto and Rias were the ones that were currently on what Naruto dubbed perv watch. The duo was currently sitting under a tree in the school courtyard with Rias relaxing in Naruto's arms. What do you mean, Issei? A whiny voice cried, making everyone in the area turn and look. Both Naruto and Rias turned and saw that it was the glasses-wearing pervert Motohama was the one that cried, and from the look on the shaved-haired monkey-looking pervert Matsuda was in shock. Issei sighed. I said I'm not peeping again because I have a girlfriend. Many around were shocked, be it that he wasn't going to peep or the fact he apparently had a girlfriend was unknown. Liar, the other two screamed as they pointed an accusing finger at him. It's true. He then pulled out his phone and showed them a picture of his girlfriend. Her name is Yuma Amano. You most likely got that from the internet, Motohama stated. Naruto saw that Issei was getting annoyed with his friends and started to walk away, but for some reason stopped and smiled. Both Naruto and Rias looked up and saw at the gates was Yuma with a package in her hands that looked like a bento lunch box. Yuma spotted Issei and smiled. She then ran up to Issei. Issei-kun, Yuma cried as she hugged, making Issei hug her back with a smile on his face. Yuma-chan, Issei exclaimed in happiness. What's that? Indicating to the box in her hands. Yuma blushed. Well, I thought that you might be hungry, so I made you some lunch. She then handed the box over to the shocked Issei. Issei smiled and in a bold move kissed Yuma straight on her lips, shocking everyone around them including Yuma, Naruto, and Rias. the latter two getting over it quickly. Yuma got over her shock and started to kiss him back. Naruto saw everyone else was still in shock. Once Motohama and Matsuda broke out of shock, they were crying tears of agony as they saw their friend making out with a hot girl. Once they separated, they walked over to the same tree as Naruto and Rias, then started to eat their lunch. Naruto decided not to interrupt their time together but overheard that Issei had planned a big date a week Saturday. End of flashback. Naruto stepped out his shower and dried off and wrapped his towel around his waist. From that information, the peerage now had a time frame to keep close eye on Issei since they believed the fallen would soon make their move, but they didn't know what it was but thought it involved Issei's scared gear. He walked back into his room and saw that Rias was still asleep, so he decided to start getting dressed. He go as far as his boxers when he felt Rias press her body into his back, her hard pushing into his skin. "Ah, Naruto-kun, why didn't you wake me? We could have showered together." Naruto chuckled. "I didn't wake you because you looked beautiful when you sleep." He then turned and kissed her, which she returned. "Also, if we showered together, we both know we wouldn't be able to keep our hands off each other," he informed her after they broke apart. Rias giggled and released him. He watched as she walked away with a sway in her hips. She then bent over and grabbed a pair of clean panties from her drawer. She had settled on a lace black thong. Naruto then put his black jeans on and he turned back to see Rias was trying to clip her matching bra closed. "Need help?" "Please." She turned her head to look back at him with a smile, before lifting her hair to make it easier. "You know, most guys would try and take advantage of the fact I'm naked in the morning." Naruto went up behind her and clipped her bra shut. "Trust me, it takes a lot out of me to not jump you, but I've seen you naked lots of times before, so I'm able to control my desires." Rias nodded with a small thank you. She knew that Naruto wouldn't do anything perverted to her unless she wished it. It was one of the reasons she was in love with him. He could the perfect gentleman, or could a destructive forces against his enemies. She looked in the mirror in front of her and saw Naruto was putting on his black and burnt orange checked shirt as well as a green gemmed necklace that according to him was given to him by his surrogate grandmother. She that pulled her skinny black jeans on and a dark red shirt that showed off her stomach. She know that most guys wouldn't want their girlfriend going out dressed like that, but she and Naruto know that he was the only one that got to look and touch her. They both left their room and walked down into the kitchen where Akino and Kaneko were both eating a bowl of cereal. Akino was dressed in a purple sleeveless sweater vest that had its top two buttons undone, showing a hint of her cleavage with a knee-high black skirt. Whilst Kaneko was wearing a green t-shirt that had a band named Skindred on it, she was also wearing a pair of light blue jeans. Naruto and Rias soon joined them, having a quiet breakfast once they were done. They walked to the front door and put on their shoes, which were a pair of black and red checked Converse trainers for Naruto, a pair of black slip-on shoes for Rias, a pair of black thigh-length heeled boots for Akino, and finally a pair of white trainers for Kaneko. As they left the house and locked the doors, they stated to walk into town where they planned to go since there was a movie they wanted to watch that was in the cinema. Naruto turned to Rias, who was holding his arm, and asked, "So what exactly is your plan?" He knows she always wanted to have a plan just in case something happened. Rias answered, "My familiar is going to give him one of our flyers and hopefully he will use it before he dies." She know it wasn't the best plan, but there wasn't much she could do in a human heavily populated area or without warning the other fallen to her presence. "Fufufu, I think Rias has run out of ideas," Akino teased as she grabbed Naruto's other arm and hugged it in between her larger assets, making Rias angry with her queen. Naruto sighed at the two. He knew that Akino had feelings for him but didn't know to what extent, since sometimes it was as if she wanted to be his girlfriend, other times acted like she wanted to be his slave, especially when she felt she needed to be punished. He looked over to Kaneko and saw that she was glaring at the two, mumbling about stupid boob monsters, making him mentally chuckle. She always did seem to be annoyed when she was around others with larger cleavage than her. As they neared the cinema, Naruto spotted Issei waiting near the park in the center of the town, most likely waiting Yuma. He also saw Rias's bat familiar in her human form handing out flyers and saw Issei take one, then saw Yuma turn up. He shook his head and turned back to the girls and brought the tickets to the movie the girls wanted to see. For Frozen, Naruto said as he and the girls got to the ticket booth. Later on, Issei smiled as he and Yuma walked through the park. It was late, and the date had gone as he had planned. It was perfect in his mind, but from the corner of his eye he saw Yuma was looking nervous. He wondered what was wrong. Did I do something wrong? Issei thought and worried, hoping he didn't do something that upset his girlfriend. Yuma-chan, is something wrong? Issei asked as they sat down on a bench near the fountain. Yuma looked around nervously as if someone was about to leap out and attack them. Issei-kun, I needed to tell you something. He nodded, wondering what she wanted to tell him. What is it, Yuma-chan? Yuma bit her lip nervously. My name's not Yuma Amano. Shocking, Issei. My real name is Rainer Amano, and I'm a fallen angel. Issei looked at her in disbelief and chuckled, "That's a good one, Yuma-chan." Yuma or Rainier stood from the bench, and to his shock a pair of black bird-like wings emerged from her back. "What the hell?" Issei cried as he stood. "As I said, Issei-kun, I'm a fallen angel." She started to look nervous again. "And I've been ordered to kill you." "What?" Issei asked in shock. His girlfriend was told to kill him. "I was told to kill you because of your scared gear." My Issei started to ask, but Rainier interrupted. "It's unimportant now. I need to get you somewhere safe before anyone comes to get you." Issei didn't know what to think but decided to trust her. "Okay, Rainier-chan," making said girl smile that he held the same affection for her using her real name, Let's G. But before he could finish, a spear of blue light pierced his stomach, making him fall down to the ground, slowly dying. "Issei-kun!" Rainier cried in shock. "What the hell was taking you, Rainier?" She looked up and saw a middle-aged man. He had short black hair and dark blue eyes. His was wearing a pale violet trench coat over a white dress shirt with a matching ascot, black pants and shoes, and a black fedora. "Donasek." Rainier spat out the name as if it was diseased. "What do you want?" Donasek smirked at her. "You were taking too long, so I came to do your job." Before she could say anything, he flew away. Rainier tried to use some healing magic on him but couldn't fully heal him. She then spotted a flyer sticking out of his pocket and felt demonic energy coming from it. She then wiped some of Issei's blood on it and said, "Please save him and protect him." She then flew away herself with tears falling from her eyes. A glowing red and black circle appeared next to the flyers. Stepping out of it was Naruto and Rias. Rias moved over to Issei's body and saw that the wound was almost healed and started the process to bring him back as a devil. Whilst Naruto looked at the direction Rainier flew and said in a soft voice, "Don't worry, we will." He then helped Rias take Issei back to his home without waking the pervert's parents. 3 days later, Tuesday. Currently Naruto and Rias were watching Issei, who seemed to be freaking out about how no one seemed to remember his girlfriend and information about her disappeared as well. Naruto had made copy of the photos that Issei and Rainier, as was her real name, had taken together. His gut was telling him that they might be needed later on. Naruto smirked in amusement as he leaned on the railing. "This is pretty funny to watch." "I figured you might say that." Rias smiled as she leant into his shoulder. It was a shock to her and Naruto when Issei needed all 8 pawn pieces to bring him back as a devil. It only meant that his scared gear was very powerful. "So what's the plan, Rias-chan?" Naruto whispered to her. She thought for a few seconds. "When it's time to tell him about his new status, we tell him everything. Even the truth of his death and rebirth," he asked her in a serious tone. Yes, she knew that Naruto would tell him anyway, no matter what she said to him or ordered him to do. Monday. A few days had passed since Issei's rebirth as a devil. Presently we find the unknown devil walking through the same park as the night he died. Last thing I remembered was that Yuma-chan or Rainier-chan, whatever her real name, was saying she was a fallen angel. Issei then grabbed his stomach, and then all I can remember is extreme pain in my stomach. "I thought Donasek killed you," said a voice from behind him. Issei turned and saw a woman around 5 feet 9 inches. She had long navy blue hair that obscured her right eye, but saw that they were brown eyes. She was wearing a violet trench coat-like top with a wide collar with a matching miniskirt, and black-heeled shoes. The trench coat top was open at her chest, giving him a view to her. She also had a gold necklace around her neck. "Oh wait, you're now a little devil." She then summoned a yellow light spear into her hands. "No matter, I'll deal with you myself." He didn't know what was going on, but a voice in the back of his head roared, "Move, you moron." And that's just what he did. He ran as fast as he could but was hit with the yellow spear, with it going through his shoulder blade, making him stumble and fall. Then another spear pierced his lower back near his left kidney. "Any last words, devil?" Before Issei could say anything, both he and the fallen angel saw a glowing red and black circle appear on the ground with Rias, Naruto, and Akino stepping out of it. Issei looked at the trio in shock. "Naruto-senpai, Rias-senpai, and Akino-senpai?" he asked as he started to lose consciousness. "Sup, perv," Naruto said with a lazy wave, making all the females present sweat drop at his lazy tone, whilst Issei had passed out from the blood loss before Naruto spoke. "I had no idea that this city was under the control of the Gremory family," the fallen angel commented in slight shock. "Is that boy a member of your peerage?" "Yes, so if you harm him, then I will show no mercy to you," Rias replied with Naruto and Akino standing next to her. "I'll apologize for today. But a little warning, you let your slaves out of your sight if you want them to live longer. Someone like me might just kill him." The trio clenched their hands at that, since the Gremory family didn't see their peerage members as slaves but rather as extended family, or as employees, since they were paid for their contracts done. "I thank you for the warning," In exchange, let me warn you to remember that if you try this again and attack someone from the house of Gremory. A cold smile appeared on her face as she stared at the woman. I will eradicate you without hesitation or mercy. The woman giggled into her hand. I see. Then I return those words back to you. The woman extended his wings outward before shooting off into the sky. My name is Calawarner. If I see you again, little devil, I will kill you and your whole group. Once she was gone, the trio turned back to the dying pervert when a pale green light spear landed at Naruto's feet. Whilst Calawarner won't kill you lot, I will. The three devils saw a man about 5 feet 5 inches drop down from the trees and saw he was wearing 3-piece suit all in black with a green tie. He had middle-parted greasy black hair that looked like it could be mined for oil and small bug-like brown eyes that were filled with bloodlust, but the oddest thing about him was a symbol on his forehead. It was a red circle with an upside-down red triangle inside the circle. Who are you? Rias asked the fallen angel before her. The man, my name is Kensin and I'm going to kill you all. He then broke out in an insane laughter. The devil trio stared at the man with unfazed expressions since they could sense he was extremely weak. Hell, he was even weaker than the dying Issei. Naruto sighed. Rias-chan, Akino-chan getting the girl's attention. I'll deal with the clown. You two start healing the pervert. He saw them both nodded in agreement. Kensin was now getting angry since the devils in front of him believed one of them could kill him. He was about to throw a spear at them, but Naruto used Sonito to get in front of him and kicked him on the face, sending him back. What the hell? Kensin cried in shock, but shook off the shock and summoned a pair of light blades. He charged Naruto, hoping to kill him quick and easily. Komillo, Naruto said as a pair of blue blades appeared in his hands. The two clashed, but Naruto overpowered the overconfident fallen member and killed him quickly by removing his head. He then walked back to Akino and Rias after dismissing his energy blades and saw that the wounds on the pervert were a good way to being completely healed. How's the healing going? Akino and Rias looked down at the pervert. I guess I'll have to take him home and finish healing him properly, Rias said with a soft sigh as she placed her hand on Issei's shoulder. Luckily I won't need to stay the night. Naruto released a sigh of relief. That's good. Please say you're not going to use that. Rias giggled at that. She then stood and whispered sexily in his ear, don't worry Naruto-kun, I only used that healing method on you. Naruto blushed at her tone. I'm just happy you're not staying the night at the pervert's place. Rias giggled and stepped back. I think I heard a bit of jealousy there, Naruto-kun, Akino commented as she pressed up against him from behind and rubbed her large chest against his back. If you want, I can keep you company for the night. Akino, stop rubbing yourself against Naruto-kun. Rias gave the raven-haired girl a small glare with a look of irritation on her face. We have more important things to do. Fufufu, now you have some jealousy in your voice, Rias. Akino said in a teasing manner as she hid herself behind Naruto. Besides, I doubt Naruto minds. Do you, Naruto-kun? Sure, I won't say that it doesn't feel nice. Naruto replied with a bored look, making Akino pout a little and Rias giggle a bit. She knew of Akino's feelings for her golden-haired boyfriend and had an idea that would hopefully make both Naruto and Akino blush and possibly allow her to see how far her feelings went. Akino getting her queen's attention. Since I'm going to be late home from healing Issei, can you keep Naruto warm for me? She asked in a tone that neither could tell if she was joking or not. Both blushed slightly at what Rias was asking. In an uneasy voice Akino answered yes, Bucho unsure if that was the right answer. Great. She then placed her hand on the pervert's shoulder and used the teleportation circle to get him home and healed. Both Naruto and Akino stood stunned, neither knowing if she was joking or not. I can't tell if she was being serious, Naruto thought out loud. The duo just shook their heads and Akino made a teleportation circle and they both went home. Later at home. Midnight. Naruto was currently in his room, but he couldn't get to sleep. After a while he decided to just relax in his king-sized bed. As he was about to get into his bed, he saw his bedroom door open and to his slight shock Akino stepped into the room. Her hair was free of her usually high ponytail, letting her long raven black hair flow down her body. She was currently wearing an old baggy orange t-shirt that he realized might be his. He could tell she wasn't wearing a bra as he could see the outline of her. He also noted she was standing nervously in the doorway. Akino-chan, what you doing up? Akino started to look at her feet and started to fidget. She took a deep breath. Well, Rias said to keep you warm until she got home, so I thought it was best to come and join you in bed. She paused, but if you don't want me to, I understand. As she turned to leave, Naruto called out to her, Akino-chan, making the raven-haired girl turn to him. She saw Naruto smiling at her. Well, you coming to join me? Really? Akino asked in shock with her violet eyes widening. Of course, otherwise I might need to punish you later, Naruto replied with a grin. Akino couldn't help but giggle. It was just like him to lighten the mood. Fufufu. Very true, Naruto-kun. She then walked over to his bed and got in it, and laid down on Naruto's left. Naruto then laid down as well and couldn't help but ask, "Isn't that one of my old t-shirts?" She nodded yep. She then added in a quiet voice, "I wear it to bed since it makes me feel safe." For some reason she hoped Naruto didn't hear her. But Naruto did hear her but decided not to say anything, but he chose to pull her into his side, surprising her, but she relaxed and leant her head on his shoulder. Naruto wrapped his arm around her waist and sweat dropped. Akino-chan, making the girl look up at him, "You're not wearing any underwear, are you?" Akino giggled into her hand and nodded, "Nope. I like to only wear your t-shirt to bed." Naruto sighed and started to fall asleep, with Akino doing the same. An hour later Rias arrived back to the room and spotted Akino and Naruto sleeping. She stripped off her clothes and laid in bed on Naruto's right, resting her head on Naruto's chest, his arm automatically wrapping around her waist, making her sigh in happiness. The next day, 6 a.m. Naruto woke up and found both Akino and Rias still fast asleep, using him as their own pillow. He quickly used Sonito to get out of their grip. He turned back to the bed and saw both Rias and Akino pull into each other into a hug for warmth, both moaning his name as they relaxed again. He quickly took a picture on his phone to use to tease them later. He then made his way downstairs and entered the dining and kitchen area. As he got the stuff to cook, his mind wandered over the past 5 years of his life. When he was 13, he had a good amount of friends, a surrogate family, and few kids that looked up to him. But he was ridiculed by many people, including several people he called his friends. Many of the villagers hated him and many shop owners kicked him from their stores. Then came his life as a devil. He had a close group of friends, a strong bond with the Gremry family. They had helped him reach his true potential, and he now had a beautiful girlfriend. He remembered the promise Rias made him years ago. He hoped one day to visit back to the Element Nations, but he decided that his place was here by Rias' side and with his new friends. But there was one thing that always bugged him, and that was, who were his parents? Did they love him? Was he abandoned? Did he have family somewhere in the Element Nations? Did they die fighting the Ninetales? Naruto shook his head of that train of thought and started to cook. As he cooked, he turned slightly and saw Kaneko walking into the dining area, rubbing the sleep from her eye. He saw she was wearing her PJs, which were a white PJ top and bottoms, which made her look extremely cute. Naruto then poured her a glass of juice and placed it by her usually seat at the table, mooring Nico-chan as he walked back to the cooker. Mooring Naruto-kun in her tired state, she didn't notice her slip of her tongue, but Naruto did and filed it for later. He went back to cooking as Kaneko drank her juice. They then heard 2 girly screams of shock, making Naruto chuckle and Kaneko to become curious. A moment later Akino entered the dining area still in her baggy orange shirt, then Rias entered wearing her silk black dressing gown. Both Akino and Rias keep glaring at each other. Naruto entered the room carrying a drink for each of them as well as some of breakfast. Once all the food was out, the 4 of them started to eat. "Hey Rias-chan," Naruto asked, making said girl turn to him, "How are you going to get the perv to know to wait for someone from the club to come get him?" "I implanted the memories of the talk into his head last night before I came home." Nodding at the answer, the 4 soon finished their breakfast and needed to start getting ready for school. Alma separation. Naruto used his technique that allowed him to create copies of himself. It reminded him of his shadow clones, but they were a lot more durable. He ordered them to clean up and make the lunches. The girls and Naruto went upstairs and changed into their uniforms. Once they were dressed and ready, Naruto had dismissed the clones and the girls grabbed their lunches from Naruto and then teleported near the school, which was on the other side of Ko, to their home. It was near the end of school. Most of the clubs were currently in session, so many of them were let out early. "Why did I agree to help you, Kiba?" Naruto frowned as he walked with his hands in his pockets as he and Kiba were walking towards Issei's class. Kiba chuckled as he walked alongside his fellow blonde. "You agreed since you were getting bored of doing nothing," and Rias-senpai and the others started talking about stuff they wished you not to hear. Naruto sighed but nodded since it was true. Rias wanted to talk to Akino and Kaneko about something, but he couldn't figure out what. He knew it wasn't his birthday since that was a month ago. The blonde duo quickly found the room and knocked. Once getting the okay from the teacher, they entered and were instantly greeted by the second-year girls that were a part of the class, quickly crowded around them as they greeted the 2 boys. While Kiba was trying to calm them down, Naruto had walked past them and the other students and stopped right next to Issei's desk. "Issei Haidu, you're coming with us," he stated in a very serious voice, whilst inside he was laughing at everyone's shocked faces. "Huh, why?" Issei asked as he looked up at Naruto, but before he could answer the question, the girls in the class had a few things to say. "Naruto-senpai, you shouldn't get so close to him. Yeah, you might get a disease from that pervert." Kiba stepped in front and shook Issei's hand. "Hello Hayata-san. I am Kiba Yuto. Rias-senpai asked us to come and bring you to the Occult Research Club. Our Rias-senpai asked you to come get me? She said someone was coming to get me, but I didn't think it was going to be you too? Issei replied as he looked between Naruto and Kiba. What? Did you think we were going to have a girl come and get you? Naruto asked with a raised eyebrow, making the girls in the classroom squeal, while Issei went pale and shook his head. No, not at all. Just a surprise, that all, he said with a nervous tone, waving his hand in front of him. So let's get going. As they started leaving, Kiba smiled back at the girls and waving them goodbye before they left the room. The blonde duo then started to escort the brunette to the old school building where the clubhouse was in silence. As they entered the club room, Issei took notice to a cute white-haired girl sitting on the couch, who was eating a small piece of cake. Who's that girl? Kiba smiled as he gestured to the girl on the couch. This young lady is Kaneko Tuju, a first-year student. Hearing her name being said, the girl turned towards the door and saw that besides Naruto and Kiba, and there was a new person with them. Kaneko-san, this is Issei Hayata-san. Issei had blush on his face as he bowed a bit to the girl. Nice to meet you. Kaneko just nodded back in greeting before going back to her cake. Issei looked away from Kaneko as he started to hear the sound of water towards the curtain to what appeared to be a shower, and beyond the curtain he could barely see the fuzzy silhouette of Rias' naked body in the shower room. Naruto looked towards the young brunette standing next to him, and was annoyed at his perverted expression. You better look away now, pervert, Naruto threatened with a dark tone, making Issei snap at attention and look away as he mentally cursed himself for that he didn't want to have a possible club mate to hate his guts for acting like a pervert. Naruto then leant on Rias' desk while Issei sat down on one of the couches awkwardly. Hello, Naruto-kun. The two boys turned to see Akino walking up to them with a smile. Akino then took notice to the extra person in the room. Oh, so you and Kiba were able to retrieve him. Naruto nodded as Akino walked slightly towards Issei. I am the vice president of the Occult Research Club, Akino Himejima. Akino said with a deep and quick bow, making her large assets bounce. I hope you have a pleasant time here. Issei had blush on his face as he bowed his head slightly. It's nice to meet you. I'm Issei Hayata. Issei then leant back into the couch, acting a bit more relaxed with a sigh. Wow, this is very comfortable. I agree, that's why I picked them. Rias' voice called out, making everyone turn to see her exiting the shower in her uniform with a towel drying her hair. Sorry for the wait. No problem, Naruto replied as he smiled at his girlfriend. We just got here, so there's no need to worry. But why didn't you shower back at home? Issei went into slight shock that both his senpais were living together. Maybe the rumor that they were secretly engaged had some merit to it. Rias clapped her hands together with a smile on her face, making Issei refocus from his thoughts. Now that everyone is here, I officially welcome you to the Occult Research Club, Rias said with a bright smile on her face as she looked at Issei. However, the club itself is just a cover-up in our club. It is more like a hobby for us. Issei looked up blankly. What do you mean? Rias had a small smirk on her face as she spoke again. To keep the explanation simple, we are all devils. After saying that, Rias began to give Issei the same history lesson that her mother had told Naruto years ago, though Rias had a few details missing from what he had been told. Do you understand the situation so far? All this stuff about devils and angels to a normal high school teenager like me, it's a little too deep. Issei started to get a little nervous at this point. Naruto was the next one to speak, Yuma Amano. That caught Issei's attention in less than a second, letting out a small gasp as he looked at Naruto in shock. It's good to see you haven't forgotten about her. After all, she is your girlfriend. Where did you find out her name? Issei asked, still thinking about his girlfriend. I can't really say I feel comfortable talking about her while I'm in the occult club. I'm sorry, but the brunette stood up from his seat and was about to start heading out of the room. Your Yuma-chan, is this girl right? Rias asked, pulling a picture from the desk behind her before tossing it onto the table between the couches. Yuma-chan? Where did you get this? Issei asked with a look of disbelief on his face as he stared at the photo. No one can remember her, but you guys have a picture of her. That girl most certainly does exist, Rias told him. She's a fallen angel, just like the person who ambushed you yesterday. After you were killed, she asked us to save your life, and she used her powers to erase everyone else's memory and all records regarding her. That is why no one remembers the girl named Yuma Amano. Killed me? But I'm alive and healthy, not even a scratch, Issei exclaimed while shaking his head. But why would someone even want to kill me in the first place? He could sort of remember their talk about him needing to get somewhere safe. That's because you possess a sacred gear, Rias told him calmly. Sacred gear? I feel like I've heard that name before, Issei muttered to himself, though everyone could hear what he said. Sacred gear resides in special humans, giving them abilities far above normal. Although most of them can only take effect within human society, some of them can possess the power to harm devils and fallen angels, Akino explained. Issei, you have that power within your body, Rias told him bluntly. Naruto noticed Rias had revealed her wings and followed suit like the rest of the group. Issei stared at all the members as one by one, wings erupted from their backs. As he was about to take a step back, 2 wings of his own came out. He looked back and forth between his wings and the others. So I'm a devil now? I'm no longer human? He thought in panic and fear. Naruto decided to take pity on the pervert. He then walked over to Issei and walked him out the room into one of the side rooms. Rias-chan, I'm going to help Issei calm down, alright, to which she nodded and let him do what he had planned. With Naruto and Issei. The side room had 2 chairs and a small table in between the 2 chairs. Naruto looked at Issei, who was still having a mild panic attack, so Naruto did one thing that snapped most people from them. He slapped Issei across the face. What the hell? Issei cried in shock as his cheek glowed red from the slap. Good, now you have stopped panicking, we can talk, Naruto said as he sat down in a chair in the room. Issei looked at Naruto and saw him pointing to the other chair in the room which he sat in. Now Issei, you properly wondering about how you are now a devil after you were dying. What would you know? Issei snapped at Naruto in anger. Naruto let out a dry chuckle. I do know what it's like. Issei looked at his senpai in shock. Naruto smiled sadly. 5 years ago I was dying. Shocking. Issei, more if you don't mind me asking, what happened? Naruto had a grim look on his face and put his hand over his chest. I was stabbed through my heart and was slowly dying, but Rias-chan saved my life by turning me into a devil. Issei looked at Naruto and asked him a question that was running through his mind. Weren't you angry, scared, or even filled with fear? Naruto chuckled. I felt all of the above. I was extremely angry at her. He then looked up to the ceiling of the room and brushed his hair out his eyes. But after she told me that she did it to save my life, I forgave her. Issei sat there thinking about what Naruto had just said. He then remembered his last conversation with his girlfriend. Yumi-chan, or Rainier-chan, whichever is her real name. Issei paused to collect his thoughts. She said that we needed to get me somewhere safe because of the scared gear within me. Naruto nodded at him. Did she even care about me? Issei whispered to himself. Naruto sighed as he looked at the slightly younger teen Issei, making him look up at Naruto. Rainier does care about you, making Issei look at him with shock on his face. She used one of Rias-chan contract flyers and wiped your blood on it, and wished for you to be saved and to be protected. Issei just sat in his chair deep in thought when a folder landed in front of him. He opened it, and to his shock it was filled with images of him and Rainier having fun and enjoying each other's company. I thought you might want that. Issei looked up at Naruto, who had stood and had his hand on the door to the room. Issei, no matter what anyone tells you, remember this. Issei started to pay full attention to his senpai. No matter the faction, each have their good and their bad. Rainier is an example of that. She is among the good fallen members, whilst the man that killed you is under the bad section. Issei nodded and grabbed the folder that was on the table and followed Naruto out of the room. Rias looked up from her victorious chess game against Kiba and saw both Naruto and Issei walking into the room. So have you finished talking to Issei? Naruto nodded to her. Great, the redhead said before walking over to her desk to get the contract papers for Issei. After handing them to him, she's spoken again. Tomorrow after school I want you to hand these out in town, okay Issei? Issei nodded. Okay Bucho, I will. Issei then placed both the folder with pictures of him and Rainier in one part of his bag whilst placing the contracts in another. Once he was done, he started to leave the building and head home. Rias watched him leave. Though one of the windows, she could sense he could become very powerful, but only if he found the right resolve to do it. Naruto-kun, could you help me wash my back in the shower later? Akino said sexuality to Naruto, making Rias turn and saw her queen draped over Naruto. Rias turned to look at her queen, an annoyed look on her face. Akino stopped that. Akino just looked at her while giggling in her hand. 2 days had passed since Issei had become an active member of the peerage. His contracts were slow, and he didn't have any repeat requests yet, but it was early days. However, his first contract was hard since he needed to ride a bike to get there, and the fact that after the contract, the fallen angel woman that attacked him the second time attacked him again, but luckily he was able to active his scared gear to scare her away. Rias had lectured him for his actions, but Naruto said that he had guts to stand up and fight her. Currently Naruto and Rias were walking to school, having decided to take the sights of the small town. Akino and Kaneko had teleported to school since they had things to do for the club. Rias and Naruto looked up ahead and saw Issei was a distance away from them, walking with his bag over his shoulder. Issei seems pretty depressed, Naruto commented to Rias. He must be thinking about what I had said to him last night. Rias closed her eyes as she nodded to herself. It may have been a little hard, but he needed to know that this is not a game, and he should take it seriously. Yeah, but remember, he did just get involved in our world, Naruto said to her in a low voice so no one could hear them. You can't expect him to know everything right away. I understand that, but he should still realize the danger. Those fallen angels seem to be targeting the whole group. Ria's eyes seemed to glow in anger as she looked down at the ground. Naruto reached up and placed a hand on her shoulder, making her look up at him. The anger in her eyes soon started to dissipate. She shook her head before grinning at Naruto. I'm surprised that you're defending him. She knew that while Naruto didn't hate the pervert, he disliked how perverted Issei was. I've just been in his shoes. Naruto looked away with a dull look, making Rias laugh a bit at his expression since she remembered his early days as a devil. Issei let out a sigh as he thought back to last night. He had managed to awaken his sacred gear after running into a fallen angel and had made the chick retreat. But when he had returned back to the occult club room and explained to them what had happened, Rias had scolded him. He couldn't help but feel bad that he had let the buster redhead down, and the fact she had been upset with him only added to how bad he felt. Yet Naruto had congratulated him, saying it took guts to do what he did, which made him happier. Yo, Issei raised his head and turned around to see Naruto with his hand up in a half-hearted wave. Beside him was Rias, who was smiling. Oh Bucho, Naruto-senpai, Issei quickly turned to face them. Good morning. Good morning, Issei, Rias greeted with a smile. Issei was happy that she didn't seem to hate him, so that was weight off his shoulders. The trio then started to walk to school together. Issei had decided to ask something that was on his mind, so Naruto-senpai, how long have you been in Bucho's peerage? Naruto-kun was the third person to join my peerage, Rias answered for her blonde boyfriend, not giving away the blonde's piece type or his rank. How does that work? I mean, how do you turn people into devils? That had been one of the first things Issei had wondered about after the meeting 2 days ago. Well, I was going to explain it to you tonight, but if you're that curious, Rias was cut off by a voice coming from up ahead. The three looked over to see a girl on the ground a few feet in front of them. Her dress hiked up a great deal, revealing her white panties for the world to see. Naruto was the first to react as he quickened his pace towards the girl. Rias and Issei following after him at a slower pace. The latter had a perverted expression on his face for a second before shaking his head several times to get rid of the thoughts. Hey, are you okay? Naruto asked as he moved to help the girl up. Yes, thank you, the girl answered with a polite and soft voice as she made it to her feet. Now that she was on her feet, Naruto and the others were able to get a good look at her. She had long blonde hair and green eyes, and was very cute. She was dressed in a nun's clothes, which was odd for someone her age. Looking over at the open suitcase a couple feet away from them, Rias let out a small hum. A nun, from the looks of it, she just arrived in this town. The blonde girl gave the three a shy smile and nervously poked her fingers together. Can you please help me? I'm afraid I lost my way. So Asia-san, you're a nun? Issei looked at Asia with an amazed look since he couldn't believe his cute girl was a nun. The trio had agreed to bring the girl to the church, and as they got closer to their destination, Issei and the teenage nun, whose name they found out was Asia Argento, had started talking to each other. But that means you've been with the church for a long time. Yes, ever since I was a baby. Asia smiled brightly at Issei, who was next to her. Naruto watched the two with interest. He could see that Asia was happy to be near Issei. Maybe it takes not living in code to find out what Issei is really like. Then again, I never would have interacted with him. Rias silently studied the blonde female in front of them, getting a feeling that there was something about this girl, something powerful. Her thoughts were cut off by the sound of crying. The group looked over to see a little boy on the ground with a bruise on his knee. Asia stepped away from Issei and quickly walked over to the crying boy, the others a couple of steps behind her. She knelt down next to the boy and patted him on the head softly, making the boy stop crying to turn towards her. You're a boy, so you should cry over a little scrape, Asia said with a comforting smile as she removed her hand from his head and placed both of her hands over the boy's injury. A green glow covered her hands before 2 rings appeared on her middle fingers. Closing her eyes, the girl began to concentrate. Soon a green light emitted from her hands and covered the boy's injury. Is that him? Rias took a quick glance towards Issei and saw he gripped his left hand. Issei's sacred gear is reacting to it, so that must mean this nun has a. Looking back at the nun and the boy, she could see the boy's scrape healing quickly. Wow, muttered Naruto as watching Asia finish healing the boy. There's no doubt, she has a sacred gear, Naruto thought as he narrowed his eyes a little, his attention focused on the girl and the rings on her hand. And it's a healing one at that. I wonder which one it is. Look at that, your wound's all gone. It's all right now. Asia called out, catching Naruto's attention again as she dispelled her rings. The boy was amazed as he got back on his feet and bowed his head in thanks before hurrying off somewhere. Asia turned her head to look back at the others. Sorry about that, it's a force of habit. It's okay, I have to say, that's one impressive power you've got there, Asia-chan. Thank you. It's a fantastic power granted by God, she said with a smile before muttering to herself in a sad tone, yes, a fantastic power. Naruto stared down at the girl before reaching a hand down to her, making her look up at him questioningly. Come on, we promised to help you get to the church, right? Naruto smiled down at the girl. Asia smiled up at Naruto before grabbing onto his hand. Yes, thank you very much. With a strong pull, Naruto brought the female blonde to her feet. Rias narrowed her eyes a bit when she had caught sight of a second cross, this one attached to a bracelet on Asia's wrist. It swung up a bit from the sudden movement and tapped the bottom part of Naruto's hand. Darting her eyes to Naruto, she saw that he seemed to have no reaction to the holy object making contact with him, but she saw that it had slightly burned him as it swung away and his healing factor kicked in to heal up the burn. So I've been meaning to ask, are you on a trip? Naruto asked as he gestured down to the luggage Asia had. Oh no, I was appointed to this town's church. Asia replied with a smile. I'm so glad I've met such nice people like you. It must be divine guidance. Yeah, I guess you can say something like that, Naruto agreed with an awkward smile. Mentally, he and his two devil companions couldn't help but think of the irony of the situation. So do you all go to the same school? You all have matching uniforms. Asia looked back and forth between the uniforms they were wearing. Yes, we do. Our school's name is Ko Academy. Issei spoke up as he walked beside the nun. I'm a second year and Naruto-senpai and Bucho are third years. What about you, Asia-san? Have you ever gone to school before? No, unfortunately. I've been with the church all my life, so I never had a chance to go to school before. Asia admitted with a smile. She had always been curious on what school life was like. There's the church. It's just a few blocks away from here, Rias said as she pointed a few blocks down. The others turned to see the church in the distance. Unfortunately, Asia-san, this is as far as we can take you, Rias continued with an apologetic smile. We have to hurry back if we want to get to school in time. Okay, I understand. Asia replied with a sad expression as her gaze went down to the ground. She suddenly felt a hand pat her on the head, making her look up to see Naruto grinning at her. Hey, don't make such a sad face. It doesn't suit you, Naruto said with a smile. He rubbed the top of her head. Besides, there's no reason we can't meet again, right? His words seemed to work as a bright smile came to her face. Right. I'm so happy to have met people as kind as you for this quickly after arriving in Japan, Asia said before she felt Naruto remove his hand from her head, which for some reason made a small part of her feel sad. Let's we meet again soon, Naruto-san. Don't forget about me, Issei said as he moved to the side of Naruto with a smile on his face. I can show you all the fun spots around here. I look forward to it, Issei-kun. Asia blushed at the young teen's smile and turned to Rias. I hope we get to meet up as well, Rias-san. Rias only nodded her head with a polite smile, which was all Asia needed to see. The young nun turned around and continued the path towards the church. The group soon followed her example and started heading towards the school. Naruto could see Issei was happy from the encounter, but saw Rias' smile disappeared into an unreadable expression and know what it was about. Naruto-kun, there is something I will need to tell you and Issei after school, Rias said in a soft voice, so she wouldn't catch the attention of the other two. All right, Naruto nodded, already having an idea of what she wanted to talk about. After school. You must never get close to the church again, Rias said with her arms crossed, leaning against a multicolored window. After classes were over and Issei had arrived at the old building, Rias had pulled both him and Naruto aside. This also means you can never see Asia-san again either. Eh? Issei blinked in confusion while Naruto, who was sitting on the railing, tightened his grip on the bar holding him up. To us devils, the church is an enemy's territory, Rias explained as she walked closer to them, moving over to the area right next to Naruto. Just stepping into it can cause a rift between the devils and God. We were in a situation where it wouldn't be strange for them to try and hit any of us with the spear of light. Seriously, Issei looked down at his hand. I guess that explained why I was getting that creepy feeling earlier. That was most likely your devil instincts, Rias said before telling the two about exorcists and the danger they posed to devils. After explanation was finished, Rias told Issei to go to the clubroom so she could talk to Naruto in private. The brunette slowly nodded his head before silently leaving the two alone, thinking about the situation between devils and the members of the church. As soon as he was out of sight, Rias turned to Naruto with a sad expression. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, you took a real liking to Asia-san. You need to remember that she is a member of the church, and associating with each other is something we must never do." "It's fine, I understand, Rias-chan, but when I saw the look in her eyes, it reminded me so much of myself." Rias looked at him with sadness in her eyes. The look of loneliness, a face filled with painful memories and thoughts, something like that should never be on anyone's face. Naruto said as he leaped off the railing and walked over to the window. "Seeing that on someone who looks so innocent makes me miserable, even if she's from the church." Rias looked at Naruto's back in silence before walking up to him, placing her hands on his shoulder, while her head rested near the nape of his neck. "I know, but you have to keep a clear mind, or else your enemies will get the best of you." Naruto sighed. Rias was right, but he didn't like it. He wanted to befriend Asia and help her around Ko, but he didn't know if she had any bad history with devils or if there was something else. Rias let Naruto go, and Naruto sat on the floor with Rias now sitting on his lap. Rias-chan, making the red-haired turn to him, "Remember that fallen angel that tried to attack us after Issei was attacked again?" She nodded to him. "Yes, what about him?" "That mark on his forehead, it's not the first time it's shown up." "What do you mean?" "According to some friends of mine, it's a mark that has been seen before on devils, yokai, fallen angels, and even humans." Shocking Rias, she just thought it was a stupid-looking tattoo, so it's some form of cult? Naruto shook his head. "No, from what my friends have told me, this mark seems to take over the person's mind, making them psychopaths that only live to kill and destroy." Rias bit her lip. If what Naruto said was true, then this could become a massive problem. Why hasn't any said anything about this before? Rias asked, trying to process what Naruto was saying. Naruto let out a dry chuckle. "Unless they're a friend of mine, they don't really talk outside their own faction." Rias nodded, since Naruto seemed to have friends in every group in the world, from fallen angels to yokai. From devils to angels, they pass information to him, which he used to help the peerage. Kiba jokingly called him an information broker, but she knew that was what could be with his information network. They both then walked to the club room in silence, until Rias broke it. "Naruto-kun," making the blonde look at her, "I got a report early from my father about a pair of stray devils in the area, and one of them is said to have that mark you just talked about on its body." She then bit her bottom lip. "I didn't think anything about it, but now." Naruto nodded with what his friends had said. It was more important info now than before. Interesting, this could be the perfect way to show Issei how devils fight, as well as find out more about that mark. Rias nodded. She then moved to the door and placed her hands on the door's handles. Naruto and Rias walked into the club room. As they got inside, they saw Akino standing behind the couch where a startled Issei was sitting on the edge furthest from her. "Sneaking up on people again, Akino-chan?" "Erara, don't say it like that, Naruto-kun." Akino placed a hand on her cheek. "I was simply giving Issei-san some words of encouragement." "Sure, whatever you say," Naruto replied with a deadpan look, making the buxom ponytailed girl pout. "Anyways, we need to get ready for a job." "Naruto-kun is right. 2 stray devils were reported to be sighted in the area," Rias said as she saw Kaneko and Kiba walk into the room. She turned to Akino and signaled her to create a magical circle. The queen nodded her head before moving to the open area in the room, summoning a circle in a crimson glow. "Let's get going." Then the whole peerage was teleported away. "A few days ago, we got reports that 2 stray devils has been spotted in this location, and one was luring people into the warehouse so that it could consume them. We have been given the task of getting rid of them and make sure no more casualties are made." Rias was explaining the mission to the rest of her peerage. Everyone nodded in understanding. However, Issei had a confused look. What's a stray devils?" "Stray devils are devils who were once members of peerages, like we are for Bucho, but these devils betray his or her master so they can obtain their freedom. The most likely way to become a stray devil is by killing their master," Kiba explained as they made their way up to the warehouse. "Stray devils also tend to become very violent and act out, so other devils have to put them down before they can cause too much damage. And that's the reason we are here, to pass judgment on them," Rias said as she and Naruto lead the group. "One in particular had been very active, and I was told that it would lure humans into the building and eat them alive." "Eat them?" Issei exclaimed in shock. "Yeah, though the second one had my interest," Naruto said as he looked at the building with narrow eyes. Making the group minus Rias look at him confused. "While many strays do whatever they like, attacking whoever they like, the second one is said to be sacrificing them to something they believe is a higher being." "Sacrificing?" Kiba asked in slight shock, since the only strays he had ever encountered killed and ate people, Naruto just nodded at his fellow blonde. If you see one with this mark, fight and defeat it, but don't kill. Naruto showed them all a picture of the strange symbol. The group nodded, memorizing the mark. Rias then continued her lecture to Issei. Devils that cause destruction and chaos like these strays can't be allowed to exist, and that's why we must stop it before it harms any more humans. As they made it inside the building, they could see that the inside was in ruins, and many objects inside seemed to have been torn apart by something. Continuing further in, Rias called out to Issei. Issei, do you remember this morning when you had asked me about how I turned you into a devil? Yeah, Bucho, Issei nodded his head. Have you ever played chess before? Rias asked, never taking her eyes off what was in front of her. Once or twice, but I never really got into it. Issei admitted, wondering where she was going with this. There are a total of 16 pieces in the game of chess. The first piece is the king. In the terms of a peerage, that is what I am. The other 15 pieces, my servants, consist of the queen, 2 knights, 2 rooks, 2 bishops, and 8 pawns. Each piece has its own trait, and in response to that, gives a servant devil different abilities depending on what piece they receive. Rias explained as the group came to a stop. This is known as the evil piece system. They are being used in a strength competition called rating game between the nobility ranks. It was through this method that I reincarnated you as a devil. So I became a devil because of one of these evil pieces, Issei muttered to himself, before looking at his king. But why did you want me to learn about it now? Issei, I want you to pay close attention tonight. Tonight you'll understand just how devils fight their battles and what you can expect to be involved with in the future. Rias replied, to which Issei nodded his head and stepped closer to Rias. Oh, I smell something disgusting. A female voice could be heard coming from the shadows, a figure slowly emerging from the darkness. And yet there is also something that smells so exquisite. The stray devil looked like a young woman with a voluptuous figure with long black hair and had a pair of light gray eyes, but her lower body was gigantic and beastly with 4 legs, each having sharp claws, and a snake as a tail. Naruto spotted the same strange symbol on her beast body but not her human body. She was also completely naked and was showing her large, which of course caught Issei's attention. Naked! The brunette shouted with a blush. Naruto groaned a bit before silencing the pervert with a smack to the back of his head. Disgusting, Kaneko muttered, but whether she was talking about the stray devil or that Issei ogling it was unknown. Rias-chan, that's only one of the 2 reported, and she's the one that has the mark, Naruto whispered to the redhead, who nodded her head. Yeah, the other one must be hiding in the shadows, waiting to strike. Be ready to counter. Rias replied before turning to the monster woman in front of them. Visser, you have betrayed your king and as such are now known as a stray devil. I hope you're ready to face judgment. Shut it, slut. I'll paint the walls in your blood to match that red hair of yours, Visser exclaimed as she laughed and fondled her in front of them all. Wow, she's a real perverted one, isn't she? Naruto commented, but received no answer. The stray devil continued to laugh in an insane manner, her voice getting louder and louder as magic seals appeared around her. Take this. Visser shouted as yellow beams suddenly shot out of her, making the group jump slightly out the way. Guys, aim for the beast, half Naruto shouted to the group, making them nod. Kiba! Yes, Bucho! Kiba shouted before grabbing onto the sword at his side before disappearing. He vanished! Issei exclaimed with a surprised look. No, he's just moving faster than you can see. Incredible speed is the attribute given to a knight piece, and their main weapons are usually swords. Rias explained as Kiba reappeared in front of the monster, drawing his sword out of its sheath before disappearing from sight once again. He then reappeared moments later, and the creature's beast arms came clean off before falling to the ground, making the stray devil yell out in pain as blood sprayed out of the newly made wounds. That is the evil piece I gave Kiba, the knight. Alright, your turn, Kaneko-san. Kiba started walking away from the screaming stray devil, passing by Kaneko, who began silently made her way towards the stray devil. The stray devil's appearance started to reshape itself, looking more monster-like as its chest and front part suddenly opened up into a set of jaws. Kaneko didn't move a muscle as Visser let out a roar and charged forward, allowing large jaws to engulf her and clamp around her. The next piece is Kaneko-chan, she's my rook, Rias said to Issei, who stared at where Kaneko had been eaten before noticing that the jaws suddenly began to reopen slowly. When it did, it revealed Kaneko standing there with a bored look as her arms held the jaws open almost effortlessly. That means she acquires unparalleled strength, something as weak as this stray won't even leave a scratch on her. You're really boring, the white-haired girl said before spinning around and completely destroyed the tea surrounding her, making the stray devil cry out in even more pain. Kaneko continued her spin, raising her foot up and sent Visser flying through a large stone pillar with a powerful sidekick. Landing back on her feet, the petite girl turned around and moved to stand next to Kiba and Naruto, who patted her on the head. Brilliant Nico-chan, making the girl gave a small smile up at him. Rias looked towards the last but one member of her peerage. Now Aquino, it's your turn. Aquino smiled at her king, nodding her head with a smile and began walking forward. As Aquino got closer to the stray devil, Issei noticed that the snake tail from earlier was twitching before shooting at Rias. Issei ran forward, summoning his sacred gear on his left hand before slamming his fist into one of the arms, sending it flying. Rias looked at Issei with a smile. Thank you. No problem, my body just moved, Issei said sheepishly as he rubbed the back of his head. Naruto nodded his head to Issei before walking to Rias, helping her to her feet. Aquino, finish her, Rias ordered as she walked past Issei and Naruto. Yes, Bucho, Aquino replied with a cheerful voice. Lightning started to spark around her hands. Since you tried to be rough with my king, I believe you need some punishment. Aquino is my queen. With this piece she gains the attributes of all the other pieces, Rias explained as Aquino released a bolt of lightning down on Visser's down form. She has incredible magical power and a fearsome devil, and to top it off. The stray devil shook and convulsed of the shock, but that only seemed to make Aquino smile more. An orgasmic look appeared on the girl's face as she stared down at her enemy. Erera, you're still very alive? That's perfect, Aquino said in a sultry voice before licking her lips sensually. She's an ultimate sadist. Naruto finished as they watched Aquino release bolt after bolt at the stray devil, laughing the entire time. Rias-chan, we should finish up with this one and move to the next target. Yeah, you're right. I think Issei has an understanding now, Aquino. That's enough. Rias called out to her queen, who stopped almost immediately. Oh, it's over already? Aquino asked as she turned around with a blush on her face. Rias walked past her and made her way to where Visser was lying. Note to self, never ever get on Aquino-senpai bad side, Issei thought to himself. But before Rias could speak, Visser's humanoid body separated from her beast body. Visser now stood on a pair of human legs. She was about 5 feet 10 inches, an inch shorter than Naruto. She was also still naked. Oh, what the hell happened? Visser said in a softer voice than before. The whole peerage was shocked and looked stunned at the stray devil. Naruto looked to the side, his eyes widened. What the hell? Everyone looked up and saw the beast half was now standing on its own and was about to attack them. Move, Naruto yelled. They all jumped out of the way apart from the humanoid version of Visser, who was still in a daze. But luckily Issei grabbed her and saved her, making Visser look at him shocked. The beast turned slowly and Rias took her chances and shoot a blast of red and black energy at the stray, obliterating it and leaving nothing behind but a small scorch mark. They all came back together, Visser now standing next to Issei. She shivered due to the coldness of the building. Issei, in a show of kindness, gave her his school blazer. She smiled at him and put it on. Naruto asked Visser a question. How you feeling? Visser smiled slightly at Naruto. I'm better now, thank you. Why did you become a stray in the first place? Visser frowned and crossed her arms under her bust. I made a deal with my former king to save my father's life. He said he would as long as I served him as a member of his peerage. She let out a bitter chuckle. I agreed, my father's life was saved, but then he mystery died a day after I became a piece of his peerage. Rias frowned. She hated when her fellow devils did that. It went against what she believed as a king and as a member of the Gremory family. Issei was shocked, but Naruto had said that Rias and her family were one of the kinder families in the Underworld since they paid their servants and treated them as family. Naruto showed Visser the symbol. Do you remember how you came into contact this symbol? Visser looked at the image and rubbed her head. I remember a man offering me a chance to fight my king for freedom as well as the power to defeat him, but then it all fuzzy. Naruto nodded. It proved that there was someone behind it all, but who was the real question? Naruto had an idea hit him. Hey Visser, but before he could finish, a giant stone beast smashed through the wall. They moved out of the way. Naruto-kun, Rias called out, making Naruto turn to her. Take care of his stray. How the smell of virgins is so intoxicating, ha ha ha, the beast roared. Naruto sonido and started charged up an attack. It's game over, stray. Zero. The attack engulfed the beast, whipping it out of existence. Okay, we are done with the strays, Rias said with a smile. Hold on, Bucho, Issei called out to the girl. What is it, Issei? Rias asked, turning to look at him. I was wondering what chess piece Naruto-senpai is. He was wondering since he had the strength of a rook but the speed of a knight. He is my second rook. Okay, so what chess piece am I? Issei asked, pointing to himself. You didn't say. You're a pawn, Rias answered before she started to walk away with the others following after her. Issei was dumbfounded at that. A pawn? The one that is the first one, the front line, and an expendable piece. This sucks. Issei muttered before walking after the group, his head swinging side to side. He spotted Visser standing to the side. Hey Visser, you okay? The rest of the group turned to face her and saw a sad smile on her face. She pulled Issei's blazer closer to her naked body. It's just I've got nowhere to go. Naruto looked over to her and offered his hand. You can come with us. Visser looked shocked at him. But I'm not a member of your peerage. I'm just a stray, she whispered at the end. Naruto chuckled. Well, if you want you can be. He then summoned his own unique chess set. If you want you can join my group. But I thought you were a member of Rias-san's peerage. I am. Let's just say it's complicated. Visser thought about it. She could see that no one in this group would treat her like her old master. Okay, I'll join. Great, Naruto smiled. Okay Visser, pick which piece you think is the best suited for you. Visser looked down and picked the pawn piece. Okay Visser, are you sure you wish to join? She nodded with a smile. Naruto then turned her into his pawn. 9 p.m. The whole peerage was at Naruto's house. Issei was in shock that his senpai lived in a large house like this. Rias and Akino were currently with Visser, helping her with finding some suitable clothes for her to wear, whilst the others were in the dining area. Naruto was in the kitchen cooking. Kiba, Kaneko, and Issei were sitting around the table talking. Issei had just finished calling his parents, informing them that he was at a friend's house. That was the most intense thing I've been involved in ever, Issei said as he let out a sigh and rested his head against the table. Kiba gave a small chuckle. Well, you never know what your next contract might be. Issei groaned. I hope it isn't like any of my past ones. He shivered as he thought back to the man who wanted him to turn him into a magic girl. He was an okay guy, but it was a little weird to look at. Naruto walked in with several trays of food. Don't worry, Issei, making the brunette look at his senpai. Most of the weird ones go once you get a decent amount of repeat requests. Naruto placed the trays down. Really? He asked in slight shock, hoping that he didn't need to do any more weird ones. The other three nodding to him since many of their own contracts were from repeat requests. Issei let out another sigh. That's a relief. Now all he had to do was get some repeat requests, and he was safe. Wow, Naruto-kun, that smells good. The four looked over to the door and saw Rias and Akino, with Akino being the one who spoke. Behind them was Visser. She was wearing a simple black tank top with a pair of black PJ bottoms. Visser bowed to Naruto. Thank you for letting me into your home. Naruto waved her off. It's fine, Visser. You're a member of the team now. You more than welcome here. She just smiled at him and sat at the table next to Issei, with Rias and Akino sitting both sides of Naruto. The group started to talk about old requests, and were having fun. As late meal died down, the group moved into the sitting room, and to Issei's shock, Naruto had a LG 65LA970W Ultra HD TV, which was probably one of the most expensive TV on the market. The group soon sat down and watched TV together, as the last show ended. Rias turned to Visser. If you don't mind me asking, Visser, what did you do before you became a devil? I was a doctor. Why? Visser answered curiously. Rias answered with a smile. Well, you need a cover, so I think that since you used to be a doctor you could become the doctor at Ko Academy. Visser was shocked that she was willing to go that far for her, in a quiet voice that everyone heard. Thank you. No problem, the Gremory family always helps its members, which includes our peerage. Visser smiled and looked over the small group in front of her and remembered something. She then walked over to Issei and kissed him on his cheek and said with a small blush on her face, thank you for saving me from my beast half. Issei blushed as well and answered, no problem. Naruto grinned as he looked at the two pawns. He now had some teasing material, but something caught his attention. Hey Visser, what was your beast half? Visser looked at her master and shook her head. I don't know, it was something that came after I had killed my previous king. She frowned. It was like his power spliced with my own. That makes some sense. If that was the case, then the symbol and the person behind it were both dangerous, since if you killed a powerful person you get their power, then you could keep going until you were the most powerful person in all separate worlds. It just meant he had to get his friends to keep their ears to the ground. What is your power, if you don't mind me asking? Kiba asked in curiosity, since they didn't know what was hers or her previous king's power. Visser grinned, showing she still had sharp fangs. She then raised her hand and everyone saw a soft glow form. My powers revolve around energy. It allows me to use it such as shields and beams out of my body. She blushed as she remembered where she shoot her lasers from. The others know why she was blushing but didn't mention anything for her sack. Naruto nodded and thought, it was a very useful power, sounds very deadly. He then grinned at her, which she returned. Soon it was time to sleep, and Kiba showed Issei to a spare room where he could sleep for the night. Everyone but Rias, Naruto and Visser was now in bed. The three were up getting information for Visser's ID. Okay, Visser, we just need you to answer some questions. Visser nodded to the red-haired girl. All right. Okay, what is your full name? It's Visser Strauss. Rias nodded and wrote it down. Naruto asked the next question. Where are you original from? Hamburg, Germany. Rias nodded and wrote the answer down. Naruto then asked the last questions. How old are you and when is your birthday? I'm 22 years old and I was born on 28th of August. Rias write the answers down. Okay, Visser, I'll be able to get an ID made with this information. Thank you, Rias-sama. Visser said, bowing to Rias. I'm sorry for what I called you when I was still a stray. Rias just waved her out. It's okay, Visser, you weren't yourself. The three then walked up the stairs. Rias went off to Naruto's room while Naruto showed Visser to her room. This is your room, Visser. We can get you anything you need and want for the room and clothes after school and this weekend. Visser smiled and bowed to him. Thank you, Naruto-sama, for everything you have done for me. Naruto smiled and waved it off. Meh, Visser, it's okay. As she stood back up, he smiled at her, and please don't call me Sama. Visser shook her head. I can't do that, Naruto-sama, making Naruto's eye twitch. I have too much respect for you to do that. Also, she then stepped into her room and turned and grinned at him. It's funny to see your reactions. She then shut her door. Naruto facepalmed. Great, she liked to tease like Akino. He sighed and made his way to his room. Once he changed into his sleeping clothes, he then got into his bed and saw that both Akino and Rias were in his bed with a gap in between them where he usually laid. As he climbed into bed, both buxom girls moved closer to him and sighed in happiness. The next day. Currently Naruto, Rias, Akino and Kaneko were the only ones in the occult research club room. Kiba was showing Visser around the school since she was able to get employed as the school doctor, so she now was Dr. Visser Strauss, the school's physician. While Issei was at his home doing his homework since Naruto told him to get his grades up, since it would reflected badly on Rias and the group as a whole. Rias was looking though the requests of the group. Most of the older members, it was manly comments from repeating clients say how they were as good as usual, and how they were going to hire them again. While for Issei the comments were good but he didn't get any contracts, Visser hadn't done any contracts yet, and even if she did, Naruto would be the one who got the review sheets since she was his piece. She looked over her original three members. Akino was presently in the small kitchen that was in the clubhouse making some sweet treats for the group. Naruto was stretched across on one of the couches reading one of his One Piece manga, and Kaneko was munching on a chocolate bar she had brought earlier. Rias couldn't help but smile as she thought over her peerage. Each of them were precious to her. Her eyes looked back at Naruto and smiled. She remembered back to when she saved his life and brought him back as a devil. Her smile grew as she thought to how he grows stronger, and how he became a high-class devil in the 5 years. She hadn't told him yet, but she had fallen in love with him, but she was nervous that he didn't feel the same, and then there was the Hey Rias-chan, you okay? Rias was broke from her thought as she saw Naruto was standing in front of her, with a worried look on his face, and she also spotted that Kaneko had left the room. She smiled at him. I'm fine, Naruto-kun. She then indicated to the papers on her desk. I've just been looking over the requests and contracts. Naruto nodded to her and looked through the new request pile. So what's the problem? Rias sighed and pointed to a small pile next to her. That's all of Issei's requests and comments. Naruto raised an eyebrow. What did he do? Something perverted to a client? Rias shook her head and stood from her desk and then stood next to Naruto. No, his comments are good, but none have signed a contract with him. Naruto looked through the stack of papers. These are from Kaneko's contracts. Rias nodded to him. The duo walked over to one of the couches and sat down. I thought it would be best for him to get used to preforming contracts. Most of the ones he did were when Kaneko was doing another job. Well, maybe that's the problem, making the red-haired king raises an eyebrow. Think about it, they have someone else to compare him to, so they judged him by Kaneko. Rias bit her thumb and thought, if that's the case then maybe I should send him on his own to get his own clients. Naruto, see the look on his girlfriend's face, said if you want I can go with him on a request and help him with it. Rias nodded at the notion since it was a good idea. They soon fell into a silence. Naruto decided to lay down on the couch and Rias joined him, resting her head on his right shoulder. Kaneko and Akino soon entered the room with some cookies that Akino had made. Both saw Naruto and Rias's relaxed position. They both felt a twinge of jealous at looking at Rias' happy face. But Akino woke the couple since they had a meeting in a bit. The couple woke from their rest and thanked Akino. Rias then started to look for a simple request for him to do. A while later all the members of the peerage had arrived and were currently sitting on one of the 3 sofas with Rias standing in front of them. Once main part of the meeting was done, Naruto spoke. Visser, making his pawn turn to him. She was wearing a doctor's coat over a dark red shirt that had some of the buttons open to show some cleavage, and with a black pencil skirt and a pair of black high heels. He handed her several contract flyers. I need you to hand these out. They're contact flyers that allow people to summon us for a request, he explained, seeing the confused look on her face. Okay, Naruto-sama, she smirked at seeing his annoyed look. Naruto could tell she was having fun from the smirk. Rias then looked at Issei, now Issei making her pawn look at her. I believe from seeing your contracts you need to follow someone to see how it's done. Issei had dropped at that, thinking he was a failure at getting the job done. Don't worry Issei, it's not that bad you at the jobs, it's just you need some pointers, Naruto said to the pervert. Making Issei look up with a smile. Really? Yes Issei, Rias said with a small smile. Naruto has offered to help you with a contract that is signed to start this evening. Issei looked at Naruto and smiled. Thank you Naruto-senpai, I'll do my best with a bow of his head. Naruto chuckled and nodded to Issei. He reminded Naruto of both Jiraiya and Konohamaru. Jiraiya because of him being a super pervert, and Konohamaru since Issei looked up to him. It's okay Issei, just meet me here at 8 p.m. so we can get to the contract location. Issei nodded to his senpai. He was then shocked as he felt a pair of arms draped over his shoulders and turned and saw Visser smiling at him. Don't get hurt Issei-kun, she whispered huskily into his ear. I'll try Visser-sensei, Issei replied nervously. Visser then, to the shock of the others, used one of her nails to cut his cheek and licked up his blood. Great, now she acting like Anko, Naruto thought as he watched the scene in front of him. He lightly shuddered at the faint memory of the second Chunin exam proctor. Once she finished licking up his blood, she whispered to him again, but like last time everyone heard it. Good, because if you don't I'll have to punish you. Issei then fainted from her actions, to which she giggled and left the room with the contracts humming as she went. Everyone else watched on in silence. No Akino-chan, you can't give Visser any advice to how best punish Issei, Naruto said to the raven-haired queen before she could speak, making said girl pout. Rias giggled at one of her best friend's pouting face. She was about to do the same but Naruto beat her to it. Once Issei woke back up, Rias sent him home since the meeting was done. The others also left. Around 8 p.m. Issei arrived and saw Naruto waiting and was frowning. He looked down at his watch and saw he was early by a few minutes. Issei, Rias-chan asked us to go to a different request tonight since she believes that Visser is better suited for the other request. Issei looked confused but nodded to Naruto. They then teleported away. Okay, this is it, said Naruto as he and Issei walked up to the contract address. Issei then walked up to the front door and knocked a few times. Hello, this is Rias-sama's servants, is the client home? There was no response, making Naruto frown. He then moved in front of Issei and slowly opened the door and peeked inside. It was an average home with hardwood flooring, and there was a dim light coming from one of the rooms of the house. There was a strange smell along the house. Naruto smelt miso soup after he stuck his head inside, but he could tell it was covering something. The door was left opened. Why? Issei questioned to the blonde as they walked inside, but the moment their feet touched the floor, a sense of foreboding filled their bodies. Is there anyone home? Called out Naruto loudly to ensure that someone would hear him. Issei was looking around trying to see if anyone was home. They then followed the dim yellow light on the other end of the house. They approached the area cautiously. Soon they saw that the light came from several small candles on top of a desk inside the office of the home. Something's going on here and it's making my senses go mad, Naruto thought to himself. As they walked forward, Naruto heard a padding noise the base of his shoe made with his step, making both Naruto and Issei look down to see some liquid on the ground. It was something that Naruto saw back in the Forest of Death, and he recognized the smell. It was blood. A large area of the hardwood floor was flooded with a pool of blood, and they both looked further into the room to find the source of it all. Naruto had to look away. He had seen death before, but not at this level of brutality, while Issei had to place a hand over his mouth to prevent throwing up upon the horrific scene. It was a man's dead body, and it was mutilated to the point that it resembled a butchered pig at a meat store. Someone had skinned the man whole. Parts of his limbs were scattered along the floor like scrap meat for sale, and his head was severed and placed on his desk chair. The one thing that bothered them most was the two empty eye sockets that were staring at them like twin dark abysses. What is this? Muttered Issei as his food he had today wanted to spill out of his stomach. But before Naruto could say anything, an eerily calm voice from the couch making the duo turn punishment of the wicked. I am quoting the holy scripture here. The man had short white hair and red eyes, and the cleric clothes he was wearing made it obvious that he was an enemy. The man sighed as he stretched his arms out on the couch, and he pushed his legs to stand up on his feet. So, you're the devils this guy tried to summon before I killed him. Naruto narrowed his eyes as Issei stepped back a little. You're the one who did this? Asked the blonde, referring to the mutilated body on the floor. The white-haired man chuckled a little crazily, and pulled out a gun and a blade in his hands. This guy tried to summon evil bastard like you, so he deserved to die, muttered the man as he turned to fully face the blonde and the brunette. But I wanted to have some fun while I was on the job, so I toyed with his limbs a little. Issei gritted his teeth in anger as he summoned his gauntlet to his hand. You sick bastard! The white-haired man chuckled and shook his head. I don't see it that way. Taking care of you devils and these pathetic humans trying to summon you is my job. The man's blade suddenly extended further, as light covered it fully. A light sword? Growled Naruto as Issei recalled hearing Akino explain to him the weaknesses of devils. The crazed man had a grin on his face as he pointed his blade at Naruto. I will not pierce your heart with this blade, and with this fabulous gun score a lovely headshot on your friend. With that, the man leaped at Naruto with his arms pulled back, and he slashed his blade down at the blonde at high speed. Naruto managed to jump out of the way and quickly turned his eyes back to see what the man was going to do next. Naruto used Sonito to clear away from the man's line of sight in a split second, as he shot a bullet. Issei stood by waiting for an opening to attack. The white-haired man continued his assault and followed Naruto no matter where he dodged to, and the walls around the room were becoming targets for his bullets. Stay still, you disgusting devil! Cried the man angrily as he kept firing his weapon. Naruto smirked as he appeared right behind the man in his blind spot, and slammed his foot into his back. As the man cried out in pain, Issei ran up and cried, "Take this, you crazy bastard!" As he punched the man right in his face, knocking him and several of his teeth to the ground in a heap. The madman's gun went flying as well. Naruto grinned as he looked at the damage done. Issei sure did pack a punch. Naruto then stepped hard on the man's right hand, shattering some of his bones and stopping his light sword in the process. Now tell me? Demanded Naruto as he pulled the man up by his clergy clothes. How the hell can you just mutilate and torture a random man like that? The white-haired man grinned and spat on Naruto's face. Fuck you, it is my job to kill all you devils and devil worshippers. The man tried to kick Naruto from below, but Naruto saw it coming, and stomped on his leg to stop him. Let me go and let me kill you! Cried the man crazily. Naruto shook his head at the man. I am bringing you back with me, and I assure you that my master will give you a proper judgment. Just as Naruto was about to knock the man out, someone stood at the entrance of the room. Ah! Cried a very familiar voice. Both Naruto and Issei looked up and was in shock when they saw Asia standing in front of Issei with her eyes wide in horror. The young nun was dressed the same way she was a day ago, but her face was becoming paler as she looked at the destroyed corpse of the ground. The white-haired man saw that Naruto was in a daze, and with a smirk he kicked Naruto right in the crotch, and followed up with another kick to send him to the ground. He then turned to Issei and kicked him in the face as well. The man forced himself up despite the many injuries on his body, and pushed Asia to the wall. You dumb bitch! Cried the man as he slapped her across the face. Where the fuck were you when I was getting beat up? Asia had tears in her eyes as she cradled herself on the ground. Fried-senpai. The newly named Fried grunted as he used his heavily wounded right hand to grip his light sword. Get the damn head in the game and ignore that useless son of a bitch on the ground. Just help me kill the damn devils. Asia looked over at Naruto and Issei, who were both back on their feet, and Naruto-san, Issei-kun? Issei looked down at the ground as Naruto glared at Fried, who chuckled. Oh, you know each other already? Asked the man with an annoying laugh. But I bet you didn't know that these young men were actually devils. Asia looked shocked as she stared up at her fellow blonde and the brunette. You're both devils? Issei looked at the girl apologetically. I'm sorry, Asia-chan, I didn't mean to hide it from you, but it is not something that I can just say to everyone. Fried chuckled and shook his head. That's enough talking, howled the man as he grabbed Asia and held her in front of him with her blade at her throat. I need to get out of here, and you are going to help me. What are you doing, Fried-senpai? Cried Asia in fright as she felt Fried's blade cut her neck a little. Naruto was beating himself up inside for letting the man catch him off guard. Fried, you coward, let her go and fight us alone, Issei yelled at the crazed priest. Fried chuckled as he slowly licked the side of Asia's face, making her cringe in disgust. No thank you, I don't want to be killed by a devil, especially not a pathetic devil like you who would actually care about a little nun on our side. The white-haired man's blade was very close to Asia's jugular vein. Oh, I'm sorry, little girl, but apparently these devils really cares about you, and would let me go if I use you as a shield. Fried looked over at the devil duo with a casual smirk. So yeah. If you come any closer I will kill her, either of you will kill me afterwards, but having someone as pretty as her die with me is a pretty good way to go. If it was a normal situation, they would have called the man's bluff, since if he really did kill Asia he would lose his only bargaining chip, but they deduced that Freed was just a psycho and would actually go through with what he said. Fine, just go, muttered Issei lowly with his eyes barring into Freed's own. Naruto was gathering up power to grab Asia when there was an opening. Freed chuckled and jumped around a little giddily with Asia in his arms. "Oh, you are such a stupid pair of devils!" screamed the man with a roaring laugh as Asia cried where she stood. "I want to have some more fun with you!" Freed suddenly kneed Asia in the back and almost broke her spine in two. "Ah!" cried the girl in pain as some blood leaked from her mouth. As Asia hit the floor, Naruto used Sonito to grab her before Freed could react. "What?" the madman cried as his hostage disappeared before his eyes. He then saw Asia in Naruto's arms. Issei, seeing his chance, punched Freed in the chest, sending the crazed priest flying to the other side of the room. "Good work, Issei," Naruto said as he used a minor healing spell to heal Asia's spine. He wasn't good with healing magic, but he knows some small ones. The blonde and the brunette then noticed the red magic circle that formed behind Naruto. Both him and Issei were relieved when they saw Visser, Kiba, Kaneko, Akino, and Rias walk out of it and into the room. Kaneko had a worried look on her face as she walked over to Naruto to see if he was alright, to which the man just nodded with a small smile. "Era, you sure have gotten into an interesting situation," said a carefree Akino as she stood beside Naruto. "What took you guys?" Naruto asked as he set Asia onto her feet, but she leant into his side. Rias stood next to Naruto. "Are you both alright?" Naruto grinned. "Of course, Rias-chan." Issei looked over at his master and nodded. "Yes, Bucho." "Rias-san!" exclaimed an injured Asia who was holding Naruto's arm for support. "You're a devil too?" The red-haired beauty nodded at the girl with her hands on her hips. "Yes, we are devils." "Hee hee hee!" laughed a delighted Freed as he stood up with his gun in his hand. "All the devils are here in one place. I am very lucky tonight." Before anyone could move, he shoot Issei through his legs as well as his stomach, making him fall to the floor. Hhhh, he screamed in agony. Issei cried most of the group, whilst Visser and Asia cried Issei-kun. Visser pointed her middle and pointer finger at Freed and shouted "Demon Gun" as she finished. A large beam of orange energy shot out at the crazed man. He jumped out the way, but suddenly, a blast of red and black fire rushed towards Freed as he was in midair, forcing him to backflip back to the ground. Looking at the source of the attack, the man saw Rias holding her palm out towards him with a scowl on her face. "You should just disappear, exorcist," muttered the beauty with a dangerous edge in her voice. "You tried to hurt my handsome boyfriend, as well as you hurt my pawn, and for that I will make you pay." A powerful red aura started to shroud around Rias as she glared at Freed with her glowing red eyes. Issei looked at his leader in surprise as Kiba helped him move back to the rest of the group and helped to lean him against the wall. "Bucho." Naruto looked at his girlfriend with a soft smile. She only got like this when her friends and loved ones were attacked. Freed staggered back a little at the oppressing power Rias was emitting. "You are the real deal. Maybe I should leave when I have the chance." At that moment, a purple wormhole opened above Freed, and he felt a sudden rush of relief surge through him. "I thought I would have to fight my way out of this mess." He then jumped into the wormhole and disappeared from the house, leaving the nun and the devils behind. The group then sensed incoming hostiles but knew they were a good distance away. Asia, feeling a bit better, spotted Issei and cried Issei-kun. Asia called out before slowly making it over to his side, "I'm so sorry." "No, I'm the one who should be sorry. I should have seen him standing, but I'm glad you're safe now," Issei said with a smile before looking at Naruto. "Thank you, senpai." "It's no big deal. You did great yourself in the fight, Issei." Naruto then turned back to Asia. "Asia, do you think your powers can heal Issei's wounds?" The girl looked up at him in surprise, which was mirrored by the others, before nodding her head. "Of course, I'll get right on it." Turning back to Issei, she held out her hands and summoned her rings. A green glow emitted from her hands and covered Issei, and to everyone's surprise started healing him. Interesting, so her healing isn't limited to humans and beings of light, Rias deduced as she and the others watched Issei's injuries disappear. Twilight healing. The wound in Issei's stomach disappeared as well as the wounds on his legs were starting to heal, but he needed some assisted to walk, which Visser gladly helped with. Kaneko frowned as she stood next to her leader, fallen angels, several of them. Kiba and Naruto nodded as they sensed the same thing. The hostiles had arrived. "What should we do, Bucho?" asked Akino in a casual voice. But both Naruto and Rias could tell she was worried underneath her tone. Rias sighed as she crossed her arms. "The main objective is to bring Naruto and Issei back, so we should leave and avoid having a full confrontation with the fallen angels in the middle of this large neighborhood." The red-haired beauty looked at her queen. "Akino, prepare a jump for us." "Yes, Bucho." Akino stretched her arms out in front of her and started to form the transportation circle in front of them. No, wait. Issei's eyes widened as he held on to Visser. His allies turned to look at the brunette. We have to bring Asia back with us. The blonde girl had a surprised look on her face as she looked up at Issei with a few tears in her eyes. I want to bring her back as well, but unfortunately this spell will only work on people of my peerage. Rias replied while closed her eyes, but a smile grew on her face. No way, then leave me here to help her escape. Issei yelled to Rias, mentally wondering why she was smiling. We can't leave her alone. Rias turned to Issei. I never said we would leave her. Huh? Naruto was the one to speak next, turning his head to look at Issei. One of my powers allows me to transport, and anyone I want around without the need of the circle. Issei looked at his senpai in confusion. Why haven't you used it before then? Because every time you have seen me before, I have been traveling on strictly devil business, so I have to look professional, Naruto informed Issei, making the injured teen nod since it made sense. Naruto turned to Asia and asked, do you trust me? The younger blonde looked at him with a smile and nodded yes. He then clicked his fingers and said Discord. The space next to him opened up to show a black void known as the Garganta. Naruto picked up Asia up bridal style and walked into the void. He turned to the others and spoke, see you back at the clubhouse. Rias nodded, alright, we'll be right behind you. They then ported away with the Discord door closing, and then reopened in the club room, before the others arrived in the room. Naruto set Asia down on one of the sofas. You okay, Asia-chan? Asia nodded to him but was looking down at the floor, making Naruto frown. Asia then felt a hand on her head. She looked up at Naruto and saw he was giving her a warm smile. Naruto-san? Asia-chan, you're safe here and I will protect you, I promise you. Really? The younger blonde looked into Naruto's piercing blue eyes and saw he was telling the truth. Naruto grinned at her. Of course I will. When I make a promise I keep it no matter what. Now stop looking so sad. Someone as cute as you shouldn't be sad. Asia giggled and smiled brightly at Naruto. Okay, Naruto-san. Naruto's smile grew larger as he saw she was now more relaxed. Good, now is there anything you wish to drink? She shook her head. She then politely answered no thank you. They both then saw the magic circle appear in the room. Naruto stood and went to greet the others. Asia's thoughts went to the older blonde's words and the warmth when his hand was on her head. Is this what it feels like to have a big brother? The healing capabilities of Twilight Healing are really impressive. There's nothing remaining. Rias said as she examined Issei's stomach where he had been shooed. I won't even have to use my own power to heal you either. Really? Wow, Asia-san, your healing power is incredible, Issei said to the girl who was sitting next to him on one of the couches. After the others had arrived back to the occult clubroom, the first thing they did was make sure that Issei was fine. After all, a devil doesn't usually get shot by a holy gun 3 times and get healed almost immediately after. It's nothing, I'm just glad I was able to help, Asia replied with a smile and a small blush. Kiba and Kaneko were sitting on the couch opposite of the girl. Akino, Naruto and Visser were on the middle couch with Visser frowning and glaring at Asia who was sitting closely to Issei. Is my pawn upset? She's got some competition, Naruto whispered to Visser. Visser blushed and glared at her master. Shut up, Naruto-sama, making both Naruto and Akino chuckle at her. Rias stood up and looked at Naruto. Naruto-kun, what did you think of that man Freed? Naruto thought for a while. Given the fact that he was working for fallen angels, I would say he was a stray exorcist. Making all but Asia and Issei nod in agreement. Wait, what are stray exorcists? Issei asked in confusion since he hadn't heard the term before. They're people of the church that were kicked out. Most of the time is because they used very extreme methods. Kiba explains to Issei with narrowed eyes. Without many other options, many of them chose to become servants of fallen angels. And that guy, Freed, he was one of these extremists. Issei thought back to the corpse that Freed had cut up. Yeah, he was definitely a crazy bastard. But even still, he was so strong I couldn't hold a candle to him. Don't beat yourself up, Issei, it's only been almost a week since you became a devil, Naruto said as he sat opposite the brunette. It takes time to adjust to that kind of battle. Rias nodded at what Naruto said and turned to Issei. You have plenty of time to grow stronger. You just need to work at it. But what about Freed? He was a lot stronger than I was, Issei noted, still slightly depressed. Remember, he has some previous training from the time he was a normal exorcist, and he did catch you by surprise, Akino pointed out, making the brunette nod since it was true. Wish I have killed him before he could escape, Naruto said, making the others look at him. So you wanted Freed-san dead? Asia asked as she turned to Naruto. Yeah, I got a feeling that he's going to create problems later on, Naruto said as he looked at Asia. I won't say that I would had enjoy killing him, but I also won't regret stopping him from hurting my friends in the future. The nun was silent for a moment before speaking again. I understand, Naruto-san, you needed to protect the people close to you, after all. And you're included in that. Naruto replied with a smile, which surprised Asia. There is something a friend once told me: everyone turned to him and listened closely since he was sounding serious. When you protect someone precious to you, then you are truly strong. Everyone but Rias, Akino and Kaneko were stunned at that, since it was something poetic but very true. Even the perverted Issei hit him deep in his heart. It's one of the few things I learned in my life before being a devil that I still hold close to my heart. Naruto then walked over to Asia and sat next to her. He then looked at her with a serious expression. Asia-chan, this might sound like a stupid question, but did you know what they were doing? The fallen angels, I mean. No, I had no idea. Most of them were going around and killing people. I could never be a part of that, Asia replied with sad expression on her face, tearfully thinking back to the horrible condition of the person Freed had killed. What do you mean most? Kaneko asked. Asia looked slightly confused at the question. Well, one of the fallen angels, Rainer-sama, never attacked people or threatened me, which made Issei's body tense up at the mention of his girlfriend with only Naruto and Rias noticed. Asia-san, Rias called out, making the girl look toward the buxom devil. If you don't mind, can you tell me why you are with the fallen angels? And it must have been a while if your powers had caught their attention, so how long have you been able to use your power? The blonde girl seemed a little hesitant to speak, but felt a hand on her shoulder. She saw Naruto was giving her a comforting smile. Don't worry, Asia-chan. We just want to know the whole story so we can help. The more information we have, the better we know about the situation and how to handle things. Asia paused for a few seconds before nodding her head. It all started when I was around 8 years old. Asia started as everyone moved to sit around her. Visser sat next to Issei on the arm of the sofa, with Akino doing the same next to Naruto. Kiba and Kaneko stayed on their sofa opposite her, and Rias sat on Naruto's lap. Like I had said when we met, I have been with the church all my life. My parents abandoned me right after I was born. I was told I had been found crying in front of a small European town's church, and I grew up in the orphanage there. When I was 8, a wounded puppy wandered into the church. Seeing that it was so close to death, I prayed as hard as I could for it to live. That's when a miracle occurred, and the puppy had been completely healed. That must have been her sacred gear awakening, Rias thought with narrow eyes. When she had gone through a book about sacred gears, she had read that it wasn't uncommon for some humans to unlock their sacred gears at an early age. After the church found out about my power, the church treated me like a saint and I was worshipped. Not long after that, I was taken to a big church where I was ordered to heal illnesses and wounds of many different Christians, and thanks to my prayers many were completely healed. As Asia continued her story, her head bowed down a little bit as she thought back to all those years ago. The church guarded me heavily and treated me well. I was so happy that my power could help people and was very grateful to God who blessed me with this power that could help others. My heart was filled with appreciation. But normal people would always look at me differently, and I couldn't help but start to feel lonely. Naruto's eyes grew sad as he had experienced the same thing in the leaf, but the reverse of Asia, since he was treated as a parasite in the leaf. He clenched his fist as he thought of them treating her like that. I'm guessing that your days as a saint didn't last long, Kiba said as he looked across the table at Asia. The girl slowly nodded her head before her gaze went down to her hand. One day, I encountered a man collapsed on the floor, heavily injured, and I used my power to save him. But the man I came across was... It was a devil, correct? Rias questioned as she placed her arms on her lap. She felt Naruto's arm that was around her waist tense slightly. Asia nodded as she twiddled around with her hands. Yes, and when my church found out that I healed a devil, they kicked me out and branded me as a heretic. The girl looked back up at everyone, a sad smile on her face. Naruto's fist clenched so much that his knuckles turned white, and he had dug his nails so much into his hand that it had started to bleed. Those assholes had used Asia like some kind of tool, and as soon as she had done something they didn't like, they threw her away. If I ever meet the bastards that did that, I'm going to show them a true demon. Naruto broke from his thoughts as Asia continued, unaware of Naruto's thoughts. I was sent away from Europe and to Japan, and when I got here I was ordered to go to the town church to work as a nun. And that's how you wound up getting picked up by fallen angels, Visser deduced as she shifted in her seat. Asia nodded her head, yes. The group fell into silences after that for a few minutes. Kaneko spoke up, so what do we do now? When everyone looked at her with confused looks, she continued, we technically brought an enemy to our headquarters. What? But Asia isn't our enemy, Issei exclaimed as he shot out of his seat. She was the one that healed me even when she found out all of us were devils. No, Kaneko-chan is right, Rias said as she stood from Naruto's lap, closing her eyes as she crossed her arms. Even if we don't want to admit it, Asia is a member of the church, and an enemy to us devils. And not only did we take her with us, we are also helping her. That kind of thing might cause some conflict between the angel and devil factions. Naruto frowned. It was true it could cause some form of conflict, but no matter what, he would protect her like he had promised her. But we can't let her go back. Who knows what they'll do to her for helping us? Issei argued. Rias sighed in sadness. I know, but unfortunately there is not much we can do, Issei, not without the possibility of causing a war, Rias responded. A tone of regret was heard in her voice. There might be something, Naruto said from his spot, making everyone look at him. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Asking to his fellow devils. Rias stared at him for a few seconds before she nodded her head. I'll admit it did cross my mind, though it's not something that is usually done. An Asia healing ability could become usual to the peerage later on. Bucho, are you talking about using an evil piece? Issei asked in a hope-filled voice. Asia looked over the group with a confused look. What's an evil piece? She asked while tilting her head to the side. No one answered the question, however. Rias moved closer to Asia and crouched slightly to the blonde. Asia, you know that the most of the fallen angels are only allied with you because of your power, don't you? Rias asked, to which the nun nodded her head sadly. And like you already said, you don't agree with their goals or their methods. This means they'll try and take your sacred gear away from you by force, and if that happens you'll die. Yes, I had a feeling that was the case, Asia answered as her gaze shifted to her hands resting in her lap. Rias took a deep breath. She knew that she would have to tell the nun the hard truth. I will be perfectly honest, Asia. There are a few options that you can choose from at the moment. The first one is that you get returned to the church and the fallen angels, and then either two things will happen. One is you die, and the other is that you are forced to work under a spell of some sort. However, with that option, it is more than likely that they will take your sacred gear away from you and kill you in the process, Rias said as she continued telling the blonde nun her only options. Your other option is... My other option, what is it? Asia asked shakily, since the first choice seemed to be horrible. Become a devil and join my peerage as one of my servants. This will not only give you protection from the fallen angels, but it also means that you'll have a better chance at surviving. Rias finished as she crossed her arms. Like she had said before, it was something that didn't happen often, turning someone from the church into a devil. Are those really my only choices? Asia questioned as her body shook. Her only options were either going back to the church and taking a 50-50 chance on being killed or become a devil so she could be safe. I'm sorry, but with how these people are and with us not being able to do much else, the choices are limited, Rias said as she reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. It is your decision on what you want to do, Asia-san. The girl stared down at the ground for a few minutes. I'm sorry, but could I have some time to think about this? Asia-san. Sure, you can, Naruto interrupted Rias, making her turn to look at her boyfriend and saw he was shaking his head at her, silently telling her not to force the girl. But you won't have a lot of time, Asia-chan, especially with the fallen angels after you. Rias nodded her head at his words. Yes, I'd give it about a day or so. She stood up and turned away from the girl. I know this is a very difficult decision for you, so I'll give you until midnight tomorrow to give me your answer. Is that all right? Asia nodded. Yes, I will have an answer by then, Asia replied as she bowed her head a bit. Things were changing so quickly for her. First she meets a few nice people and joins the local church, and then she finds out what the people she worked with truly did to innocent people. Then she learns that the nice people she had met were actually devils, and now she was being offered to become one herself. Good, then you'll stay with me for the night, Naruto said as he moved away from his spot and walked up to the girl. Huh, said a few of the people in the room looked at Naruto in surprise. Are you sure, Naruto-kun? I mean, your house also houses nearly all of the peerage except Issei and Kiba. Rias had a concerned look on her face as Naruto stopped next to her. And Asia, she know that the church might do something if they found out where Asia was. Naruto shook his head. True, Rias-chan, but I made a promise to her to protect her, so it will be fine, Rias-chan. Rias sighed. She know that when Naruto made a promise he would go to the end of the earth to go through with it. Okay, Naruto-kun, Rias said as she stared into his eyes. Naruto flashed her a calming smile, making her smile in turn. Tomorrow is a free day, which gives us plenty of time to keep off the fallen angels' radar. Also, they would have to be idiots to try and attack the home of the Gremry heiress and her peerage. Seeing that his words helped Rias feel a bit better, he turned to look at the nun. Are you okay with this, Asia-chan? I don't want to be a bother, Asia said as she nervously poked her fingers together. You won't be a bother and you're welcome to stay with us, Naruto said with a grin. Are you sure? Asia looked a little hesitant. Of course, and don't worry, I won't let anything bad happen to you. Remember, I promised you. Asia smiled up at Naruto and surprised him with a hug, making the older blonde chuckle and hugged her back. As they broke apart, Asia looked at Issei-kun, making the pawn look at her with a questioning look. Could you show me around town tomorrow? She asked while nervously poked her fingers together. Issei looked shocked but smiled slightly. Sure, Asia-chan. Making the nun smile brightly, Naruto then made a transport circle. Then Naruto and Asia walked over to it, with Visser joining the nun and her king. They then ported away. Rias dismissed the rest of the group and then teleported home herself. As Issei walked out of the room, he looked down at his left hand with a frown and clenched it into a fist. Later, Naruto showed Asia to a room she could sleep in. Kaneko had provided her some PJs since she was the only one around Asia's size. They were blue in color and had little birds on them. This is your room, Asia-chan. Thank you, Naruto-san. The girl smiled as she sat on the bed, but slowly her smile turned softer and sadder. Asia-chan, are you okay? Naruto stared at the girl sitting on the bed, wondering what was going through her mind. She looked up at him with that same smile, the one she had that morning when they first met. You know, Naruto-san, even with all the things that have happened to me, I never stopped praying to God, expressing my gratitude. Naruto frowned at her words. Asia-chan. There were many times when I thought that the Lord must be testing me. Even now I have faith in that. She brought her hands up in a praying manner. I believe that maybe if I can overcome this ordeal, He will make my dream come true someday. Your dream, what is it? Naruto asked. His eyes narrowed a little as he saw tears starting to fall from Asia's. That I'll be able to make a lot of friends, the girl answered, surprising Naruto a little at the odd dream. We would go buy flowers and books together, and chat about so many things. Naruto smiled softly at the girl as he walked closer to her, stopping in front of her. That is my dream. Asia looked at Naruto with a sad smile. I don't have any friends, you see. What are you talking about? Naruto smiled back before he crouched down and placed his hands over hers, surprising her as he did all this. You already made that dream come true on your own. You've got me, Issei, Rias-chan, Akino-chan, and the others. We're all your friends, aren't we? He took one of his hands away from hers and brought it to her face, wiping away her tears. So from now on, we can all buy flowers and books together whenever you want, and I'll chat with you every day for as long as you'd like, he proclaimed with a grin. Naruto-san, Asia whispered as she unclasped her hands and reached up one of her hands to the hand on her face. There was that feeling again, like she was being protected by this warm presence. But could we really still be friends even if we're on opposite side? Of course, whatever your choice is tomorrow, I will stand by what I said. I will always be your friend. Naruto moved his arms around her and brought her into a comforting hug. So promise me you'll continue to smile, okay? Asia stiffened at Naruto's words and felt her whole body start to tremble. She moved her arms around the man and held him as tightly as she could, crying into his chest and letting out all the pain she had gone through since she was a little girl. The biggest truth about Asia was that she had always wanted family and friends, people that would be there for her. And here Naruto was, giving her both in just one day. At the moment it didn't matter that she was a nun, nor did it matter that he was a devil. Everything about the supernatural world was blocked out as the young woman cried her eyes out on her new older brother's chest. Thank you, Naruto, Asia said after a few minutes, finally calming down enough to speak. Suddenly she could feel her eyes start to get heavy. Naruto had discreetly used a weak sleep spell that he knew to help Asia get some rest. She needed it after the day she just had. After helping her into the bed, Naruto brushed her hair a bit before giving Asia a smile. I'll see you in the morning, Asia-chan. Sweet dreams. Good night, Naruto. A second later, Asia was out like a light. Naruto had a slight surprised look on his face as he thought about what she had just called him. The surprised look disappeared as he shook his head, smiling to himself as he stood up. Yeah, good night. Making his way out of the room, Naruto turned off the light in the room and softly closed the door, leaving the slumbering blonde to enjoy her dreams. I promise you, Asia-chan, I will protect you from anyone who tries to harm, even if I have to kill to do it, Naruto swore to himself. His eyes glowed neon blue for a split second as his power flared. As Naruto walked down the stairs and walked into the sitting room, he saw Visser in her PJs watching TV. You okay, Visser? You've been very quiet ever since we got home. Visser sighed. It's just I feel that things are going to get more complicated and harder from here on out. Naruto raised an eyebrow. You mean because of Asia-chan? Partly. She paused to gather her thoughts. I think that with both the situation with Asia and the whole thing with the fallen angels, it feels like a massive sign of something is going to happen. Naruto nodded. It was true, it did feel like something was about to happen. He grinned at her. So it's not because of your feelings for Issei? He joked to his pawn. Visser blushed at that. She hated when he brought up her feelings for the brunette. It wasn't her fault she had a crush on someone who saved her life. She then glared at him and shoved him. Shut up, Naruto-sama. Naruto just laughed at her blushing face. Once he had finished, they then sat watching TV in a comfortably silence. After a while, Rias, Akino, and Kaneko arrived home and joined them watching TV. Where were you, Rias-chan? Naruto asked curiously. Me, Akino, and Kaneko were getting some things for Asia. Naruto nodded and thanked the girls. Both Rias and Naruto had decided to allow Issei to take Asia out tomorrow without any of them following them. Naruto agreed but planned to check on them during the day. Next day. Midday. Issei and Asia currently on their way to get some lunch. Issei was wearing a dark blue long-sleeved t-shirt under an open short-sleeved shirt with a pair of blue jeans and a pair of gray trainers. Asia was wearing a yellow sundress under a black jacket that sleeves reached down to her elbows with a pair of sandals on her feet and had a small bag over her shoulder. Issei had just shown Asia around the different sites of the small town. They were having fun. As they neared the place, Issei was taking Asia for something to eat, when a voice behind them spoke, making them both jump. Having fun, you two? Turning around, they saw Naruto standing there wearing a dark red shirt that had the top two buttons undone with a pair of black jeans and black trainers. Naruto-senpai, what are you doing here? Issei asked in confusion, while Asia smiled up at her surrogate older brother. I was on my way to get something to eat, then I spotted both of you and decided to join you and see how Asia-chan's day was going. Making the young teens nod at the older teen, then the trio entered the McDonald's they were outside of. Once they got their orders and Naruto had paid, they sat down at a table. Is something wrong with your food, Asia-chan? Naruto asked, looking at Asia, who was sitting on the other side of the table, staring at her food with a confused look. Issei was sitting next to Asia, also looking at the blonde in confusion. Are there any forks and knives around? Asia asked timidly. You don't need stuff like that for this kind of meal, Issei said as he took a sip of his drink. Really? Asia tilted her head in confusion. Here's how you eat them, Asia-chan, Naruto said, picking up his burger and began to eat it. See? I never would have guessed they could be eaten like that, Asia asked, looking amazed. Amazing. Then I'd better wash my hands. Both Naruto and Issei couldn't help but sweat drop when Asia took out a bottle of water from her small bag. Naruto let out a sigh as he looked at the girl, who was going to wash her hands with water over something like a burger was a little too much. If you want to clean your hands, then why don't you use these? They're called disinfectant wipes, and they kill germs. Naruto held out a packet of wipes to her, which she accepted and used them to wipe her hands. When was finished, the nun proudly held up her sparkling hands with a look of pride on her face. Good job, Naruto said as more sweat drops reappeared on the back of his head. Issei blinked a few times and also had sweat drops reappearing. I didn't think anyone could get that clean from just a few wipes. Asia then put her hands together. Now then, I should pray before the meal. Dear Lord. After a minute or two, Asia had finished her prayers and lifted her burger up to her mouth. Unknown to her, both Naruto and Issei were holding their heads in slight pain since they were near a prey to the biblical god. After a few seconds, she finally took a bite of her burger. Her eyes widened in delight as she took another bite. It's so delicious, I've never had anything like this before. Making both the boys chuckle at her eyes, since they were shining like stars. I'm glad you like it. Well then, let's finish our food, Naruto said with a grin. The quicker we finish up here, the sooner we can go to a place that I bet you'll really like. Eh? Asia blinked a few times with a confused look on her face as she stared at Naruto. Almost 20 minutes later, her confusion disappeared as they widened in awe. In front of her was a place that was filled with all sorts of machines and flashing lights, and there were a lot of teens of all ages inside. Naruto-ni, what is this place? This is an arcade. It's filled with all sorts of video games and other fun stuff, Naruto explained as he turned to the two 17-year-olds. Issei had an excited look on his face while Asia had a look of amazement. So what do you say? Want to go inside? Huh? Come on, you've got to enjoy the different experiences life gives you, Naruto told her as he held out his hand. Issei was holding out for her other hand with a grin on his face. Let's go, Asia-chan. Why yes, Asia replied as a smile grew on her face, and she reached up and grabbed both of their hands as they went inside. The small group of three then spent several hours in the arcade center playing all sorts of video games. The male duo introduced Asia to almost every game in the arcade. Issei was very good at shooting games and fighting games, but Asia had managed to beat Issei on the latter with her second try, though it was mainly because Naruto was telling her which buttons to push, much to Issei's dismay. The next thing they showed her was a racing game. Asia didn't do too well on that one at first because she kept crashing her car into the wall several times, but eventually she managed to get the hang of it. Issei then took Asia to a dancing game called Dance Dance Revolution, which Asia seemed to enjoy a lot and turned out to be a much better dancer than they had expected as she and Issei danced side by side. But one of the highlights of the arcade was the photo booth, where they made silly faces at the camera as they printed enough photos for every member of the peerage. "I hope you enjoyed yourself, Asia-chan," Naruto said as he looked over at her. He saw that Asia had a small yellow and black creature named Ratchu in her arms. Issei had won it from a crane games near the exit and had given it to Asia as a present. "Yes, I did," Naruto-ni as she squashed Ratchu in her arms. At the moment they were walking toward the park enjoying the peace and quiet, as the road they were walking on was empty, not a person in sight. But Naruto's request seal went off. He then turned to the other two. "Sorry guys, but it seems I got a request to do." "Okay, Naruto-senpai," Issei nodded at the older blonde since he knew that a request could come at random times. Asia smiled sadly. "Oh, okay, Naruto-ni," she said in a soft, upset voice. Naruto placed his hand on her shoulder, making her look up at him. "Don't worry, Asia-chan, I see you at home, okay," making the girl nod with a smile. Naruto then turned to the other male of the group. "Issei, I'm placing my trust on you to get Asia home safe." Issei nodded with a serious look on his face. Naruto then walked to the side and activated a transportation circle to get to his location. The duo walked around the park for a bit, then they settled down on a park bench after hours of continuous fun, and Asia had a bright smile on her face as she swung her legs around casually. Issei smiled as sat next to Asia. "After we rest, do you want to go and get dinner since it's late?" The blonde smiled and nodded to Issei, making the brunette smiled. "Great, then let's go." A sense of foreboding suddenly rushed through Issei's senses, and he instinctively turned around to see if anything was going to harm him since he had several bad experiences involving this park. His eyes widened at the sight of a winged figure standing in the middle of the fountain with her arms crossed, and he instantly recognized her as his current/former girlfriend. "Rainier-sama," said Asia with a shocked look on her face. Issei saw that Rainier's true form was more mature in appearance. She was about 2 inches taller, with her eyes had changed, taking on a darker violet color. Also, she was now wearing a black leather strap-like objects around her that only covered the area around her, a thong-like piece held around her hips by 3 thin straps, gloves that run right up her arms with small lengths of chains hanging from them, with a shoulder guard-like objects on her shoulders with 3 large spikes sprouting from her right shoulder, and black thigh-high heel boots. He also spotted that she had the pink bracelet on her left wrist that he had brought her during their date before his death. He looked into her eyes and saw her glaring at him. "Issei, you, her hair covered her eyes, you bastard," she cried, which made both Asia and Issei stumble back due to the outburst. Issei said in a weak voice, "Rainier-chan?" She then glided over to them, then landed in front of them and growled, "Oh, now I'm Rainier-chan," after 11 days, making him move back even more. "Do you have any idea how worried I was about you? How I spent hours hoping you were alive and safe?" He spotted she had tears in her eyes. "How I wanted to," she then burst into tears. Issei felt terrible. He didn't know that it affected her that badly. He then pulled her into a hug, surprising her, but she started to hug back. "I'm sorry, Rainier-chan, but with everything that's been going on, I wasn't sure how to get in contact with you." Rainier nodded, since it was true she did delete her number from his phone to keep him safe. They then continued to hug, which felt like hours. After they separated from the hug, then the trio of a devil, a human, and a fallen angel all sat down on the edge of the fountain. "Rainier-chan," Issei started, making Rainier and Asia look at Issei. "Why do you have a stray exorcist working for you?" She frowned and crossed her arms under her bust, making them look bigger. Issei noted, "You mean that nut job Friedsellen?" making the other two nod. They didn't know his last name but same first name, and the fact she called him a nut job fitted. "He works for Donasik." She paused and thought for a bit. "It was one of the things I got confused with on this mission." "What do you mean?" Asia asked in a cute, confused voice as she tilted her head to the side. Rainier sighed. "Originally I was ordered to this town to watch you, Issei, and when Asia came into town it was meant to watch both of you because of your scared gears shocking the two since they didn't know they were being watched." Rainier frowned deepened, but then Donasik and his goons came and told me the mission had changed and that I was to kill Issei, and we were to remove Asia's scared gear from her. Shocking the pair, but why? Issei asked, trying to figure out what the hell was going on since it didn't make any sense. Asia was frightened that they were planning to take her scared gear. "I don't know why. Since Azazel-sama loves scared gear users, I thought my mission was going to change to get you both to join the fallen side, but like I said, that was before Donasik showed up," Rainier answered while shaking her head. An idea popped into Issei's head and turned to Rainier. "Rainier-chan," making the fallen angel look at him. "Yes." Come back with us, I'm sure Bucho will be able to help you. But she wouldn't be able to get in contact with the fallen governors, Rainier asked, confused. We can try, Issei said with confidence. Rainier thought about it and nodded. Okay, Issei-kun, I'll trust you. Issei grinned and said, okay, let's get going. Okay, Issei-kun, both girls said at the same time, making them look at each other. As the trio stood and started to walk away when a voice spoke behind them. Well, Rainier, looks like you're showing your true colors. I know that there was reason why you didn't do your mission correctly. They looked behind them and saw the man who had killed Issei. Donasek. Rainier growled in hatred. The man laughed mockingly at her and floated above the water fountain with his arms crossed. Issei summoned his gauntlet and was ready to fight, but then 2 spears of yellow light pierced his legs, making him fall to the ground. Issei-kun! Cried both Rainier and Asia. They moved to help him after Rainier removed the light spears from his legs. Asia then started to heal him. Ah, is that sweet, the little nun healing the little devil, Calawarner said as she landed behind Asia. She then backhanded Asia, sending the young girl flying. She then turned and looked at the wounded Issei. And you devil, your bitch of a master isn't here to save you this time. Don't call Bucho that, Issei growled at Calawarner. Making her scoff, she then went to cut him with a light sword, but Rainier blocked her with her own light sword that was colored purple. I won't let you hurt him, Rainier growled at Calawarner, as she knocked the older fallen angel back. But her victory didn't last long as a pink light spear shot through her shoulder. Ah, you wanted to protect your boyfriend, that's so sickening, a childish voice called out. Middled, Rainier said through gritted teeth as she held her bleeding shoulder. Middled was a girl that stood at 4 feet 9 inches with blonde hair that was styled in twin short side ponytails with a large black bow on top of her hair, with pale blue eyes. She was wearing a gothic outfit which consisted of a black Lolita dress that had white frills and a large black bow on the front of her dress with a green jewel embedded on the collar, with white thigh-high socks and black shoes. Middled grinned sadistically. Ah, is Ray-chan mad at little old me, she said in sugar-sweet voice. Fucking brat, Rainier said, but all Middled did was giggle and move over to where Donasek now was standing. Let me go. Rainier turned and saw Calawarner holding a struggling Asia. Calawarner then wrapped Asia in her wings and disappeared back to their base of operations. Before she could do anything else, Donasek was in front of her and knocked her out. I won't let you take them, Issei roared as he struggled to get to his feet, but was smacked down by Donasek, who along with Middle disappeared as well. The focus of the blow knocked Issei out. A while later, Issei groaned and remembered what had happened. Then he quickly shot up and noticed he was in the club room. So you're awake now, a calm male voice spoke from the door. Issei turned and saw Naruto-senpai. He then bowed his head. I'm sorry I couldn't protect Asia-chan. Naruto just stared at Issei for a while, not talking, but ended up sighing. Issei making the pervert look up at him. It's fine. I was the one who found you after you nor Asia arrived at my home, so I started from where I last saw you both. Naruto paused and took a deep breath. I used a memory spell on you to see what happened to you and Asia-chan. Issei looked down again. I see. You did the best you could, Issei. Naruto tried to comfort him. Well, it wasn't good enough, shouted Issei. He then clenched his fists and screamed, both Asia and Rainier have been kidnapped by the fallen angels. I wasn't strong enough to help them. He took a deep breath and said in a quieter voice, all I am is just some pervert that has some mystical weapon sealed within me and was dragged into the supernatural world. By the end of it, Issei had tears dropping from his eyes. Naruto walked over to the crying brunette and placed his hand on his shoulder and spoke softly to him. Issei, if you want, I'll help you train. Issei looked up in shock. Really, he wanted to ask him for help but didn't have the time to do it. Naruto nodded with a smile. Yes, but we need to save Asia and Rainier first. He then turned and opened the room's door. Issei nodded and followed Naruto to the main room where the others were. You okay, Issei? Rias asked him in a concern in her voice. Yes, Bucho, Issei said with a slight smile. He then frowned, but I'll be better when both Asia-chan and Rainier-chan are safe. Rias nodded and turned serious. Okay, the plan is that me, Aquino and Visser are going to fight the ones outside while the rest of you are going to fight the ones on the inside, understand? Yes, Bucho/Rias-chan, the group said at once. The group separated, Rias, Aquino and Visser disappearing first. Issei looked down and clenched his fist. What's wrong, Issei? Kiba asked his fellow second year. Sorry, but will I really be of any help? Everyone turned to Issei, who had a frown on his face. I'm more than happy to help, but can a pawn like me do anything beneficial? I mean, I am one of the weakest pieces. Issei, do you really believe the pawn is the weakest piece? Naruto asked from his spot next to Kaneko. Pawns may not have powerful increases in skills like the other pieces do, but they have a unique ability to them. A unique ability? questioned Issei as he looked at his senpai with curiosity in his eyes. It's the ability of promotion. Like in chess, when a pawn reaches the end of the board in the enemy territory, they can promote themselves to any other piece, except for the king. In a raiding game, a pawn can do this as well as can be given permission to promote by their king. This ability makes pawns a very valuable piece to have. Issei looked shocked at that, and asked, so I can have the same powers as you and the others? Naruto nodded his head at his question. Since you are going to be entering the church, which is enemy territory, you'll be able to promote yourself. Naruto then summoned Los Lobos to his hand and slipped the sheathed blade into his belt, and remember this, a sacred gear works in accordance with its master's will. So the stronger your will is, the more your sacred gear will work for you. The power of my will. Issei looked down at his hand, the one that held his sacred gear, before snapping his head back up with a look of determination. Alright, I'll do my best. Later. What an intense killing intent, Issei said as he stared at the entrance of the old church from behind one of the trees. With him were Kiba, who was behind a tree next to him, Kaneko, who was kneeling behind a bush, and Naruto was standing on a tree branch with his arms crossed. Yeah, there must be a lot of priests inside, Kiba agreed with a smile. Naruto had a bored look on his face. It's not that bad, I've felt a lot worse. Issei turned to look at him with a sweat drop. I don't want to know what you've gone up against. Shaking his head a bit, Rainer-chan, Eiji-chan, Issei thought sadly before shaking his head as he narrowed his eyes. I will save you both. Are you okay, Issei? Kiba asked as he noticed the brunette seemed to be deep in thought. Issei turned to the blonde with a nod and a relieved smile. Yeah, I'm fine, but with all these enemies around, I'm really glad you guys are here to help. Of course, we're friends after all. We watch out for our comrades, Kiba said with a smile. Thanks, Kiba. Issei looked at the knight with a smile before noticing Kaneko and Naruto were walking to the church doors. Kaneko-chan, Naruto-senpai? There's no point in sneaking in, since they know we're here, Naruto said as he walked next to Kaneko with his right hand resting on top of Los Lobos' hilt. So let's get inside. Kaneko raised a leg up and kicked the doors wide open. The group walked into the building, taking in the horrible condition it was in, with destroyed statues, broken glass windows, and demolished pillars. As they got closer to the altar, the sound of clapping was heard. Well, look what we have here. A voice spoke up as a figure walked out of the shadows. As the figure walked into the moonlight, it revealed to be Freed, who was giving them a crazed look. If it isn't the shitty devils who got away from me. Watching the group from the rafters of the church was a young blonde man wearing a robe, frowning at the four people as they fought against the madman. Damn those four. They're ruining my plans. The man calmed slightly. It doesn't matter, I always get what I want in the end, no matter the cost.